What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday show, gang. As our pal Larry C is pointing out in chat, 12-game monster slate to get through today. No time to dilly-dally, no Donovan's talk, no Jersey Shore bar talk. Back on camera today, as you can see, still a little bit of a bruise like right there. Still a little bit of like going on up here, a little bit on the nose there, but we're mostly healed. Back in action. Just had some scrapes on like the forehead, right on. It's so weird with the camera, knowing which side of my face I'm supposed to touch. Had a big like scrape like right in there, and then like a black eye from around here from where I fell like up there. But no worse for wear. Little Wolverine healing factor kicked in. We were basically fine by middle of last week. Just waited a couple extra days to get back on screen. Want to look perfect for you guys, obviously. Right. Anyway, interesting slate to get into. Let's not waste too much time. We got a handful of people here. We'll get a quorum in a little bit. I think Gundacker is either winding up his show or is done with it already. I was trying to give him a little space again. One of these days we'll get our schedules figured out. As mentioned the other day, I'm going to get in touch with him and look for, maybe next week we'll try and do something together. Wasn't going to be early this week, but hopefully next week. Got to get it coordinated. We'll see what happens, but we'll maybe pick a lighter day, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday for getaway day. We'll get that figured out. Let's dive into this one. I just updated the run board. I updated a handful of the confirmed lineups. It looks like a couple more just dropped in the last few minutes, but whatever. So pretty recent Vegas setup here. Phillies at the Rays, a 7.5 run total there. Zach Wheeler on the bump for the Phils. Pretty solid option as far as our pitching. And Drew Rasmussen going no slouch the other way, keeping the Phillies checked under 4 runs going for the Rays. The Pods at the Yankees, 8-run total there. It's Michael King against Clark Schmidt. Michael King, very, very good. Clark Schmidt, middle of the road type, but the Yanks are still pulling a 4.20 implied total against King, which is kind of surprising. He's been pitching well. He is very, very good. There's plenty of strikeouts available for him there. So I'm a little surprised the Yanks are as highly projected as they are. I think that one went up a half a run in the update that I just ran. Schmidt going the other way. It'll be his 4th start of the season. It's been okay. Over the first few, he's finding the strikeout stuff, making that work. So it'll at least be under consideration, but the Padres lineup on a big slate like this doesn't seem like the right spot to challenge. That said, he does have him checked down at 3.88 implied runs. Cincinnati at Atlanta. The Braves are showing a bunch of power. They're pulling a 5.11 implied total. Looks like a great spot to me. They're going up against Andrew Abbott, who the one time we really, really chased him hard, he burnt us. Struck out 11, gave up just 1 earned run. That was against Baltimore at Baltimore. Loved going the Orioles that day. The next start was at Coors. You can kind of forgive him for 4 earned runs there. After that, he faced the Cardinals, went 4, gave up just 1 unearned run on 3 hits, but only struck out 3, walked 4. He's got a big problem with walks. He's got a historic problem with power. So really liking the looks of the Braves there. And then it's Chris Sale on the mound for Atlanta. So he's looking pretty good and looking like he's going to keep the Reds mostly in check. The White Sox are throwing Sean Burke into the grinder against the Royals. Love the upside for the Royals bats. They're one of the more highly ranked teams, 5.16 implied total for them. Seth Lugo on the mound for Kansas City, looking fairly solid, especially considering the matchup against the White Sox. Not a bad spot for Lugo at worst. You know that Lugo is going to pitch into probably the 7th and possibly beyond. He's worked into the 8th. He worked 8 full innings 2 starts ago. He's worked into the 7th 2 other times. Every start except for his first start of the season, he's worked in the 6th inning and he's completed he's completed 6 innings, excuse me. So very, very good for depth, very good shot at a quality start on FanDuel for a fair price. Giants at the Cubs. Cubs doing Cubs things as usual. Justin Verlander on the hill for the Giants. He's been pitching maybe a little better than he's getting credit for, but also hasn't looked great. He has gotten stretched out, though. We've seen 6+ in each of the last 3. So maybe worth considering, but the Cubbies are pulling a 4.43 implied total, and I just don't like attacking that lineup, as we've talked about a bunch. Colin Ray is on the mound for, excuse me. Wait, is it Ray for, did I skip somebody? The fuck is pitching for Chicago? Oh, yeah, it is Colin Ray for Chicago. I forgot which team he was on. Colin Ray, pretty mediocre starter. I think we can definitely take a look at targeting him. Have we talked about Colin Ray as a Cub on any main slate? I don't remember seeing him on the Cubs like at all this year, but he's made 4 starts, 3 other appearances. Yeah. Must be blanking on that one, but definitely a targetable enough starter. That said, the Giants at just 3.66. Another day where maybe Wrigley's keeping him down a little bit, just not getting a lot of credit in the run column, and it didn't come through yesterday, so probably not chasing it on a big day like this. The Twins getting Royce Lewis back in the heart of that lineup. Really, really interesting spot. 5.14 implied total for them. Going up against Cade Povich, a young developing lefty, just trying to find his footing. He's got good stuff on the right day, but he can definitely get got. We've seen that a few times already. 3 home run game with 7 earned runs allowed to Cincinnati. 3 starts back over 3 1/3. Messy one there. Bumpy one against the Yankees the most recent time out. Didn't get destroyed, but gave up 2 home runs, 3 earned. Pretty rough spot. Really liking the looks of the Twins. The Orioles bats drawing an okay fantasy projections. Up and down, those hitters are difficult to suppress, but they're going up against Pablo Lopez, who's pitching really well. Doesn't look like a great day for the Orioles with a sub-4 implied total. The Astros and the Brewers, that's a sub-4 implied total for the Astros, going up against Chad Patrick. And then the Brewers pulling a 4.19 implied total going up against Hayden Wesneski. I kind of would have expected that to be the other way around, quite honestly. But we'll consider all 4 corners of that game because both of those pitchers are cheap enough to at least take a look at. Paul Skeens is on the mound for the Pirates, looking sharp, but not maybe apex Skeens yet. Last time out, he didn't really come through for us. 3 earned runs over 5 innings. That was a really short start. They all came on solo home runs that he gave up in the same. Was it the same inning or was it 2 in an inning? I think it was 1 early and then 2 later. But only struck out 2, walked 4. Really bumpy outing for Skeens, uncharacteristically bumpy. Probably not anything to watch, not anything to be concerned about. It was against the Cubs, very good team. The start before that, he went 6 1/3 against the Dodgers, struck out 9, allowed no runs on 5 hits. On the Cards side, Matthew Liberatore pitching fairly well as well. The last time out, he only went 3 innings at Cincinnati. He gave up 2 earned runs, struck out 2, walked 1. Forget what happened there, but every start before that was 6-6 plus, finding strikeouts along the way. So we'll definitely give him some consideration in a game that's carrying just a 7-run total. Vegas respecting both sides. Tigers are at the Rockies. There's a lot of weather in the area. We got to watch that for this late game. Got burnt on the Guardians yesterday. Couldn't pivot out of it by the time the postponement came up. It was because FanDuel left off those last 2 games. So I had a lot of Guardians in lineups. Really sucked because I had a lot of other good stuff. But the Tigers and the Rockies, if this game plays, obviously Tiger side looking very, very solid. 5.44 implied total. Just a 4.17 implied total on the Rockies side. They're going up against Jackson Jobe, who has been all right, has a great prospect pedigree, excellent stuff. But I believe this will be his first time pitching in Colorado. So interesting spot, but they don't project well, and that team is just flat bad. The Blue Jays and the Angels, it's Jose Urena making his second appearance, first as a Blue Jay. And it's Tyler Anderson on the mound for the Angels. I think we can attack Urena, and Tyler Anderson is mix and match type pitcher at worst. 4.65 implied total on one side, 4.44 implied total on the other side. David Peterson going for the Mets against the Diamondbacks. Good pitcher, bad spot. Don't love it. Only 2 strikeouts in each of his last 2 games, too. A little bit of something to watch there. He's typically a better strikeout pitcher than that. Zach Gallen, a gettable enough starter, but can obviously have peak games. He's been mostly on form outside of a 6-run game and a 5-run game, but that's what you get with Gallen overall. I think we can always consider Mets bats. That's just a good lineup. Both sides of that one pulling solid totals. 9.5 runs on the board, one of the higher overall totals. So going to be tough to look at pitching in that one on such a deep slate. Mariners and the Athletics rounding things out in that minor league ballpark with monster totals on both sides of that one. Look at all the action at the end of the night. Keep some spots for late swaps and late changes, etc. But just keep a lot of focus on those late games because there's a lot of run weight there. The Athletics look great going up against Emerson Hancock. They're showing a ton of power again. A lot of upside in that lineup. And then is Jeffrey Springs on the mound for Oakland or for the Athletics. And he, outside of his first start and his most recent one, has been really bumpy for runs. First start was excellent. He gave up no earned runs, 3 hits, struck out 9. That was against Seattle. Most recent start, no earned runs on 2 hits over 6 at Texas, but he only struck out 1, walked 1. It's a mediocre DFS start. Every other start, he's been nailed for runs. He's given up exactly 1 home run in each of his 5 starts there in the middle, 6 starts there in the middle. So definitely a targetable pitcher with Mariners bats on the other side. That said, this was the team that he shut down in his first start. So you throw that little wrinkle into it slightly, but 2 monster totals to chase there. Hit the like and the subscribe as we get rolling on the pitcher breakdown here. Chris Sale is too cheap at the top of the board. He's facing a Reds lineup that's got plenty of strikeout in it. They're obviously a little bit threatening, but Vegas isn't worried about that spot. He projects fantastic. Even if you took a little bit of depth away from him, even if you took a strikeout or 2 away from him, he'd be one of the top options on the board. And he's offset by price pretty dramatically from the other top-end options. Significantly cheaper than Skeens, Wheeler, a little bit cheaper than Pablo Lopez, 100 more expensive than Seth Lugo, who, yeah, is facing the White Sox, but Seth Lugo is not Chris Sale. Seth Lugo would probably be the first person to tell you that. Michael King is very expensive for facing the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Very, very good pitcher. Good strikeout upside, both personally and via facing the Yankees. Just a bumpy price, and if the Yankees put a couple runs on that price, there's so much to work with up here for guys that are less expensive or guys who are more expensive but more likely to succeed, that it's a little bit rough at that price. But you definitely play it. He's on the board easily, and he projects out very well. You can see the price offset between those top 6 options and the next tier of guys. That's a pretty reasonable gap there. Justin Verlander, as mentioned, I don't love targeting the Cubs, but at 75 on both sites, I think you could take a few FanDuel shots in 150 lineups. And on DraftKings, he's honestly a fairly appealing SP2 option, just given the personal upside and some strikeout stuff. But it's a very threatening Cubs lineup. I realize I skipped over some of the guys up at the top, but I feel like Wheeler against Tampa Bay is kind of self-explanatory. 11,000, 9,700. He's just expensive, but he's fantastic, and he's mostly on form, giving up a couple home runs that he shouldn't have, but otherwise perfectly fine. A little bit of a threat in that ballpark. And then Pablo, just tough lineup to get through. But Vegas is on his side. Looks like some of our numbers are on his side. So easy to play at 95, 9,000 across sites, but would probably be my least favorite out of 1, 2, 3, and then probably Lugo. I think Lopez would rank 5th, and then probably King given the price and the matchup against the Yanks. But yeah, Verlander very much on the board. Liberator, honestly, at 82 is very cheap for how he's been pitching in the matchup against the Pirates. Not a bad spot on DraftKings at all to consider some Matthew Liberator. And I mean, this is obviously a really strong combination. This is a fairly strong combination. I wouldn't call you crazy for putting those two together a couple times to save some money. I think Liberator is good enough and in a good enough spot that at 8,200, given that price gap between all but 2 of the top 5 options, top 6 options, there's a little bit of room to consider him as a step down discounted SP1 and put him together with something else cheap. The problem you run into is a lot of these cheaper options, like Wisniewski's just okay, and it's not a great matchup against Milwaukee. They're drawing a little bit of power upside against him. 7,200, he is in that bargain bin range, so he's usable there. But there's a fair amount of downside. Drew Asmussen is definitely interesting at 83, but he's a little bit more highly priced than the actual discount options. That's more in the same vein as Liberator as a cheaper SP1. Trying to decide which one of these guys I would like the best, because they're all challenging matchups is what I was getting at. Chad Patrick against Houston, not a great matchup. Difficult spot. David Peterson, I would normally probably have ranked as the top one of these guys, but I really have a lot of respect for that Arizona lineup, especially with Ketel Marte back in it. So a little bit of a challenge there. Schmidt, talented enough to beat that $6,900 price, honestly, but it's, again, a really rough matchup against the Pods. In Yankee Stadium doesn't help. But that's at least significantly cheaper. That might be the one that really draws the attention. Good enough pitcher to get through that for DraftKings. FanDuel, that's a bumpier spot because I don't know that you're getting a quality start. But this is all right. And putting that and that together for 15-1, not completely nuts. Wouldn't go here. Too much threat. This is at least interesting, the 76. That might be my next favorite spot It might be the added discount on Schmidt with the knowing that you're getting risk there, and then Springs against Seattle after that. Seattle's been good. Their offense is actually good, but there are Ks there. And if he finds form, then maybe we're on to something at 76. It's at worst, it's competitive with all of these options in this range, literally all of them. I'm just trying to decide which of those I like best. I would love to say that it's Verlander, but it's probably not, even all the way up there, even the way he projects at the price, just because of how good that Cubs lineup is. It's not Ray. It's not Anderson. We're getting thinner down here. I really don't like Abbott today. And I don't think any of those guys are even usable, honestly. I wouldn't throw the $5,500 Burke dart. Too challenged by Kansas City, too low strikeout. Dollander at least has a lot of prospect pedigree on his side, kind of similar to Job. That's why they project almost identically. Look how close those are. 2205, 22.02. That's essentially the same. 10.32, 10.29. Odds are the ballpark's just working against both those young pitchers. It's a challenging board. It really is, because there's so much same right through there, including, even down to the pricing for the most part. It's going to be really important to get that top option right. Challenging slate. I like it. Makes it fun. Let's get up to the top. I think we got Phil's in. Oh, we got both of these now. Wait. Oh, all right. Rays did flip. I was like, I know I put the Rays lineup in there. I typed it. Phillies. Damn it. What's going on, Larry? Good to see you. Yep, back on cam. What's up, everybody? Number one loser in the chat, says Millie. Greg, what's going on? Greg being Cohen 11. Yeah, Ragan's 11 Ks in 5 innings. Was that what he ended up putting up? I have to admit, I switched over. I was watching the Knicks. So, monster win for my Knicks last night. Between flipping to the Knicks game and being laser focused on that and having a bunch of Guardians in my lineups that got rained out and I knew my lineups were dead, I kind of did miss a few things that went on. I didn't catch the highlight shows this morning, so a little bit behind on results last night. Metro Boom 808 likes Job for some reason. Look, like I said, I mean, there's talent there, not to skip all the way ahead. One major threat is definitely the weather, though. As Roth said, they're very good at getting games in Colorado, but if it's just too ugly, it's just too ugly. There is talent here, and there's talent here. It really hasn't come through much for Job yet. Just 8.7% swinging strikes is kind of surprising. A 17.6% strikeout rate, a monster walk rate that's a problem right now. And you can see how high the xFIP is compared to the ERA that he's put up so far. So he's gotten lucky to get by with stuff working that way. But you can see the talent right there. That's a solid 12 points above average if we're talking about just the stuff plus mark. Same thing on Dollander's side. He's got the disadvantage of pitching in Coors Field sometimes. In his 5 starts, he struck out some. He's finding more swinging strikes than Job is. And again, this swinging strike number and the CSW defy this. It means that he's got that the mechanics of the pitches are working and he's missing spots, most likely. Dollander's actually been the one of the two that's been a little bit more on actual form. The 6.48 ERA you can mostly ignore. The 4.10 xFIP for a pitcher, a kid just starting out in Coors Field, like, it's not terrible. But there's too many guys on base. There's still too many walks in there. He's found some swinging strikes, but he's also given up a monster home run rate and a ton of barrels. So there's a lot of downside there as well. I think it's probably not the day to grab a pitcher from this game. But I promise you, we're going to be talking about some Tigers pitchers over the next couple of days. Teaser for tomorrow's show and the day after. Pretty sure it's Casey Mize tomorrow and then Scooble the day after. Devin says, yeah, 11 Ks from 5 for Raggins. Was hoping they let him go 6. That pitch count must have gotten up there from them pull him after 5. And with 11 Ks, obviously, it's at least a certain amount of pitches there. So Phillies with Zach Wheeler on the hill. A little Rays again with Drew Rasmussen. Two respectable pitchers here. Rasmussen pitching to a 2.64 ERA with a 3.20 xFIP underneath it. 25.4% Ks over 30 and 2/3 in 6 starts. Sub-1 whip is tremendous. It's been really good. He's given up a little bit in terms of premium contact. Maybe something to keep an eye on. The 90 plus, almost 91 miles an hour of exit velo isn't great, but it hasn't really cost him. He's been very effective. Last time out, 5 innings, basically good for 5, and he's only gone into the 6th once. That was against my Yankees. Give up 1 earned in that start, 3 hits. Didn't complete the 6th, though. Struck out 7, walked 3 in that one. Last time out against Kansas City, 3 earned. Game before that against Arizona, 4 earned in 5 innings in both starts. Give up a home run, struck out 5 Diamondbacks, struck out 3 Royals. Just walk 1 in each game. The low walk rate is very real, 5.9% right now. That's 3 walks against the Yankees and then 1 walk in each of his other starts, except for the first one in which he walked 0. I think between the two, you obviously want Zach Wheeler, but you're getting a very nice discount on Drew Rasmussen to go up against the Phillies team that has plenty of threat in it, but he's not really somebody who pushes good home run rates in the other direction. You can see even Kyle Schwarber, it's just 6.64. That was 6.66 earlier for the mark of the beast. Last year, in just 28 and 2/3 in 4 starts, Rasmussen didn't allow a home run. The year before that, he kept it to just 1.13 and 44 and 2/3 over 8 starts, limited samples because he hasn't pitched much. But even back here, in a larger sample, 146 innings over 28 starts, just a 2.23% home run rate. So he's been very good at limiting power. The Phils are drawing a sub-4 total. I think it's a reasonable spot to at least expect a decent start from Rasmussen, and he's really not that high priced. You do have threatening hitters even without the home run upside, though. I mean, this is a great 9-man lineup. You can absolutely play some Phillies against Rasmussen, probably get them at lower ownership. You just need a Schwarber or somebody of that ilk to come through with the long ball for you to put up the big score. But Schwarbs is very effective for that as a lefty bat. They've got, 5 lefties in this lineup today? It's a very solid team to throw at a good pitcher. So definitely a both-sided situation there. I think it's less both-sided with the Rays. You'd be stretching a little bit more if you were going to grab some Rays and throw them against Zach Wheeler just because of how good Wheeler is. He's another level up from Rasmussen. 3.48 ERA, but a 2.66 xFIP underneath it, a 32.8% strikeout rate on 14.6% swinging. A 1.0 whip right on the nose. Like I said, a couple of home runs that got out that otherwise, normally wouldn't. 2.54 exactly percent home run rate the last 2 years. Excellent numbers across both those years. Rock solid option for depth of start. Love Zach Wheeler's upside, 97, 11,000. You just pay the high prices. You know what you're getting with Wheeler more often than not. There are strikeouts available for many of the key hitters in this Rays lineup. If we're just ignoring the 12, the 13 there, and we take everybody else, that's 22.8%. And you can see like the group of the power bats is very much high strikeout. 23.9 in that spot. I probably shouldn't have put Jankowski in there. 24.1 for that group of 4 hitters. So there are plenty of Ks for Zach Wheeler to go find, and this is a lower end lineup than the Phillies. For one, it definitely does not play a full 9 men deep. Travis Jankowski is replacement level at the absolute best on a good day. Ben Rortvedt is not much of a bat behind the plate, as evidenced by the .077 200 103 slash line so far. The 242 xWOBA, the -1 WRC plus. It's a decent backup catcher defensively, but that's all he really is. Taylor Wall's pretty ineffectual down at the bottom of the lineup. So at best, you're dealing with a top 6, and you're throwing him up against just one of the best run suppressors in the league. Really don't like it. If we're looking to just sequence and scratch out hits, though, love Chandler Simpson for that. 3,600, 2,700. Did you guys see over the weekend against the Yankees in that series? He was on second base. Somebody hit a ground ball up the middle. It was probably Volpe at short. Fielded the ball behind second base. And he did it like he rolled kind of when he did it. He had to extend and then roll. He didn't make the play. But like came up with the ball right behind second base on a ground ball. Went as an infield hit. Chandler Simpson scored from second base. Dude can fly. 6 stolen bases already, slashing 296, 333, 315. Just a 93 WRC plus. He's never going to hit for power, but he's going to be low strikeout. He should draw more walks than he has so far and just makes things happen on the base pass, can score from anywhere on the field on any hit. He's ridiculous. Brendan Lau, a little bit of power, 4 home runs on the year, a 6.71 because Wheeler is typically very good at suppressing power outside of a few wonky results this year. Johnny Diaz is just cheap, 36.28. All these Rays are very, very cheap. That's kind of what you're buying here. But again, I don't love doing that and just grabbing a team that's either contrarian or cheap just because when you're going up against a legitimate Cy Young contender. So really don't like that on the Rays side. But Diaz would be a key piece of stacks. 4 home runs on the board. The numbers are starting to come around. 345 xWOB is very encouraging. He's 6 points above average for run creation. Starting to look more like himself. Jonathan Aranda hitting for major power right now. 5 home runs on the board, a 245 ISO and a 425 xWOBA off of major premium contact numbers. That's a good upside bat. Terrible matchup. Cameron Misner, mediocre contact so far, but okay results. 272, 317, 467, a 196 ISO, creating runs 24% better than average. But you can see the negative here in the premium contact numbers. You can also see it in the results in the underlying xWOBA at just 286. Tells us that some of the production is going to continue to come down. So not a hitter to get too excited about, where Junior Caminero is a real talent. 10.3% barrels, 50.5% hard hits over his first 132 this year. 6 home runs on the board, a 192 ISO, a 101 WRC plus, and he's still just 41.27. It's just, again, terrible matchup. So any of the top 6 in combination with one another, if you're just drawing one-offs against Zach Wheeler, you're probably not doing the right thing for your lineup, but it's probably Brandon Lau, maybe Junior Caminero. But that's it, and it's really limited one-offs wise. And again, don't do it against one of the best pitchers in baseball. Philly side, 4,800, 3,100 for Bryson Stott. A little expensive on the DraftKings slate, honestly. He's a good hitter, and he's in the right spot in the lineup, but that doesn't really help your price point here with rostering Phillies. I would obviously want his correlated scoring, and I love the option at second base. It's the ideal spot to put a hitter like that. He's getting on at a very solid clip at 346. 2 home runs. He's stolen 7 bases. Just a 299 xWOBA. Mediocre contact numbers. Low-end contact numbers, if we're being honest. 2 Bryson Stott is. So at 48, I'd maybe rather consider another one of the outfielders down lineup. I would certainly consider JT Realmuto at 39. That's a pretty big offset by $900 between Realmuto and Bryson Stott for a position that you need to fill anyway. So I'd probably lean in that direction. Let other people take the expensive leadoff bat. Don't get me wrong, totally playable, belongs in a great number of your Philly stacks. But if I'm building one, it's probably 1, 2, 3, and then one of these outfielders in Realmuto. Or maybe even stretch down to Bohm and go like that. That's 2 really good bats for 39 and 32 right there. That brings my 5-man down to a $4,600 average for a stack that includes Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber, as well as JT Realmuto and Alec Bohm. That's a really good buy. Not a great matchup. Again, Rasmussen's good. Phil's under a 4-run implied total. But putting those 5 bats together for that price is not bad. And you've got playable options right here. Either one of those outfielders fits. Max Kepler kind of rolling is up to 5 home runs, a 377 xWOB. It tells us there's more to come, 206 ISO. We've seen Max Kepler succeed at the major league level for power several times. Multi-time 20 home run hitter. 11.6% barrels, 51.2% hard hits so far. Looking tremendous right now. Looking like the old Max Kepler. 4,200, still very cheap. Nicky Castellanos can always get into one. 8.8% barrels, 43.1% hard hits. Both numbers up. 276, 326, 417. Good run creator. 352 xWOBA. Underlying metrics suggest there's more upside coming. Love it. Obviously, these 2 guys are power hitting stars. Schwarb's more the 3 true outcomes. Harper kind of underperforming in the average department right now, but still getting on at a 364 clip. He's creating runs 20% better than average. The 375 xWOB, it tells us everything will be fine. 11.3% barrels, nearly 50% hard hits. It's Bryce Harper. Don't overthink it. Trey Turner sitting at 297, 371, 367, creating runs 12% better than average. Perfectly fine. Not bad when he's down at 5,000, 3,000 as well at shortstop. It's still star caliber production. Not hitting a ton of home runs, not barreling a ton of balls right now. 3% barrels down from 6.9 last year, down from 8.4 the year before. But still gets on base, still a great table setter ahead of these guys. If I have a $200 difference between him and Bryson Stott, that is not a $200 separation of players. On FanDuel, he's $100 cheaper than Bryson Stott with positional commonality. Those are not players who should be priced the same. Realmuto, again, at 39, where you have to play catchers, at 28, where you don't. 3 home runs on the board, at 325x WOBA is stable at least. We'll probably get the positive WRC plus eventually. The numbers should go up from here. Still 10.1% barrels, 43% hard hits. If we're just looking for any given day DFS success from a catcher, it's a reasonable spot. Bohm at 32.27 is struggling. 228, 267, 283. That's not who he is. 8.7% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. But typically we're looking at Bowman this kind of territory. 283, 32, 448, low strikeout, medium walk, hit 20 home runs 2 years ago, 15 last year, positive run creator. It's an extended slump over 135 plate appearances for Alec Bohm so far. Kind of out of the gate like Vinny Pasquantino, who I always compare him to and say that he's like the lighter hitting right-handed version of. But both guys struggling right now. The price is very affordable, though, for a hitter that should come around. And then Brandon Marsh, typically an on-base machine, over 55 plate appearances. He's been kind of limited so far at 130, 241, 217. But anytime he's in the lineup, you can do this and just wrap him back around to the top. And that's not a bad option because he does typically get on base, has a little bit of lefty power in that bat as well. Zach Wheeler, Drew Rasmussen, Phillies bats. Really, for me, it's pretty much no Rays bats. I would roll some Phillies bats, though. Pods and the Yanks. Let's see if we got the Pods lineup in. Do not. Metro Boom saying, oh, of course, postponed. There you go. That was quick. Oh, I love getting that news early. Yep. 4 minutes ago. Thank you for the heads up. Couple pieces of news, bro. Let's see. Cora said the Red Sox haven't talked to Rafi Devers about playing first base, sticking with Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro. Tristan Casas is out for the year, if you probably saw. And then Teoscar Hernandez going on the IL. Just put this in here. Of course, PBD. All right, so one less game to talk about. Yeah, great. Absolutely, Andy. Great getting that now. One less thing to worry about. And just taking cores off the board is always good. Love that. So Pods at 3.88 going up against Clark Schmidt, 69, 7,800. He's pitched to a 23.1% strikeout rate over his first 3 outings, 5.52 ERA and a 4.81 xFIP. We're going to kind of just short sample that. He is good. He's like an effective 3-4 type starter. Last year, solid 26.3% strikeout rate over his 85 and a third in 16 starts, a 2.85 ERA, but a much more honest 3.92 xFIP. Induced a good swinging strike rate. He's a very solid strike thrower. Not bad as far as limiting home runs and power, but is a fly ball trajectory pitcher. So you got the Yankee Stadium thing going. You do have Fernando Tatis up at 11.45 in the home run model. You've got Manny Machado at 8.88 for the numerology fans. You've got the potential return of Jackson Merrill in this lineup at 6.56. Did he play yesterday? Or would this be his first day back? I knew he was there. I just forgot to check whether he played yesterday. Activated today. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. So, assuming Merrill's back, that's a huge bat coming back for them. Over 41 plate appearances before he got hurt. 378, 415, 676. Carrying on in a big, big way from his monster rookie season. Lefty bat, too. So there's a lot of threat here for Clark Schmidt, even at 69, 78. On FanDuel, I probably just don't use it. There are comparable discounted spots that are probably in better situations because the Pods are low strikeout on top of all their offensive upside. At 69, as we discussed looking down the pitching board, he is at least discounted significantly from everybody else. Most of those medium options are in the 7s. So you get that upside. He does have strikeout stuff. You need him to clip the walks. You obviously need to get through not allowing power. It's a dicey spot, but I think this is enough value that you can play it as an SP2. Michael King is an appealing SP1, but he's going to be pitching in Yankee Stadium as well. He's got to get through Aaron Judge a couple of times. The other hitters who were in this lineup as well. We've got Cody Bellinger. We've got Jason Dominguez hitting 5th. It's a pretty gettable version of the Yankees lineup for Michael King, honestly. Trent Grisham, I know he's been great to start the season. 298, 379, 631. He hit his 9th home run of the year last year to tie his season total from last year. I just am still not a big believer. I just think we eventually revert to the Trent Grisham that we've known for quite a while. 27% strikeout rate over the last 2 years. He's at 18.9 right now. Maybe he made some later mid-career strides. Maybe. Ben Rice at 5,000, 3,400. Great start to his year. I believe in the kid. I believe in the eye as far as his ability to draw a walk being real. But he's going to be pretty high strikeout. He's at 25% right now. He was at 27% last year. It's already down to 255, 358, 557 after a slow couple of weeks. Power's legit, but Michael King is better. Cody Bellinger's been scuffling badly. He at least clawed his way above the Mendoza line. Jason Dominguez hasn't been much better and has not lived up to the prospect reputation so far. And then Anthony Volpe is bad. Austin Wells is good, but more just for power. Maybe some walks. Ozzy Cabrera, Jorge Vilas. This is a really good setup for Michael King to succeed. The hope would be maybe the pinstripes scare some people away and people don't go to King as aggressively as they probably should, honestly. Because, again, this is a lower-end version of the Yankees lineup overall. This is a gettable spot. 95 is not a bad price. 10-5 is aggressive, but he's striking out 29.5% of hitters. He's pitched to a 2.09 ERA, a 3.33 xFIP, a pretty good swinging strike rate against a team that will definitely give you some swinging strikes and some strikeouts overall. Becoming more and more encouraged by the upside of Michael King. It's honestly about getting through Aaron Judge 3 times. You can do that, you can beat this team. On the pod side, I would stack them a little bit against Clark Schmidt. I think that Tatis, Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill would be good sources of one-offs at the very least. Merrill's return should give a little bit of relief to Xander Bogaerts, and he should get the production rolling again. He's still slashing 254, 346, 356. He hasn't been bad, but the ISO, he hasn't really hit for any power. The xWOBA has come up a little bit, actually, over recent days. He's also clawed the WRC Plus over the league average. But I expect more out of Xander Bogaerts. I think we get it going forward. So reasonable 5-man from the top down. An okay option here, but a positional conflict with Luis Arraez on DraftKings. Kind of depends what you're looking for there. Do you want the guy who's likely to be on base 3 times, get a couple of base hits, but then needs some help from his friends? Or do you want the lefty with a little bit of power upside in Yankee Stadium who might clear the bases and add a big score to your day? So really depends what you're looking for, because Gavin Sheets, not bad for power. 54% hard hits, a 6.3% barrel rate is all right. But a lefty in Yankee Stadium, all he really needs to do is put the ball in the air if we're really looking at it. 4 home runs already this year, a 331 xWOBA, 125 WRC plus. He's been good. Jose Iglesias, Jason Hayward, Martin Maldonado, mix and match pieces going down the board. Hayward really hasn't given us much, but if he's in the lineup, it's another lefty bat to throw at Clark Schmidt. So maybe you would consider it for a little bit of cheap lefty pop, but really it's been pretty empty over 63 plate appearances so far. Martin Maldonado is always good for the occasional random ass home run. He's got an 11.1% barrel rate over 51 plate appearances so far, 8% each of the last couple seasons. We've all seen those days where he bends slates because he hits 9 home runs from the 9 spot as a completely unowned hitter all season long. That's what you get out of him. Obviously, we've got a star at the top of the lineup again. Tatis, one-offs, paramount option in stacks. 61 is a bumpy price, but he's well worth it. 39 on FanDuel. Honestly, he should be a 4,000 plus player. 8 home runs, 8 steals, a 429 xWOBA, 163 WRC plus, slashing 317, 387, 556. He's a monster. Arraez is all about the hit tool. 297 average at 333 on base. Doesn't hit for much power at all, but creates runs, 116 WRC plus. He's striking out at a 1.6% rate so far this season in a league where the average is around 21%. That's insane. 4.9% walk. He's just always putting bat on ball. And then Manny, honestly, cheap at 4,600, 3,400. Slashing 294, 357, 460. He's only hit 3 home runs, but he's carrying a 406 xWOBA with a 12.6% barrel rate, 56.3% hard hits. Manny is quietly mashing baseballs. They just haven't really turned into home runs. They haven't really, a lot of his hard hits haven't really gone for a lot of extra bases. It's weird results, but given what he's doing out there, we should expect a big uptick. So that's a great price at 46, and it lets you grab the top 3 for a total of a $4,900 average. If you stretch and just do the top 5, considering how cheap Bogey is, it's a $4,700 average for a stack that includes Tatis, Arraez, Machado, Merrill, and Bogey in Yankee Stadium against the guy just finding his form for this season. That's really affordable. If you are considering Yankees, everything starts with Aaron Judge. 6,500, 4,800, not incorrectly priced. Could be more expensive. Slashing 414, 503, 759. 155% better than average creating runs. It's just ridiculous, the numbers. But we're struggling to put pieces around him. Trent Grisham has been fine. 9 home runs on the board. He's got a great slash line for the season. Torpedo bats doing him favors, et cetera, et cetera. It's really mostly about the fact that he's cut almost 10 points off that strikeout rate, putting great bat on ball when he connects. I just don't expect it to continue for very long. And Michael King is an excellent strikeout pitcher. He's going to get Trent Grisham fishing. Rice with all the strikeouts. Good target for King. 5,000, 3,400. Needs to put bat on ball. Just a 5.87 in today's home run model. Only Judge is above the magic number. And look how close to just a 10 Aaron Judge is. Tells you something about Michael King. Bellinger at 44, 3,000 is a good player at a good price. And you just hope for the best. Right now, there's a lot of just meh going through there. I'd love to have one thing that I could grab, but even like the xWOBA, not really where it should be to indicate that we're getting anything better than this. The contact numbers are the thing you can grab. Just under 10% barrels, 45.1% hard hits. Strikeouts are up a little bit high. The walks, at least he's drawing some walks, getting on base. Dominguez has hit the ball hard, 50.8% hard hit rate, but he's striking out more than he did last year in the small sample, way more than he did in his small sample a few years ago. We've seen the kid succeed for too long at the minor league level to not expect that it'll eventually round into form. But against Michael King today, probably not the day to find it. And then again, all these guys are just kind of bad to mediocre. You're getting good contact out of these two. I like Wells a lot better as a hitter than Volpe. Volpe's got 5 homers on the board, a 348 xWOBA. Wells just a 310 xWOBA underneath it, but a 248 ISO. Seen better results, 6 home runs, lower strikeout, typically a better walk rate. So far this year, not. But I expect the walks will come up. The run creation will come up a little bit for Austin Wells. Been kind of slumping, but as long as we get power there, we're all right. It's just, this is not a hitter. This kid can hit a little. I mentioned it yesterday. Right now, we're at a 30% strikeout rate and 30% walk rate over his 10 starts, or his 10 plate appearances. But throughout the minors, he's been very low strikeout and pretty high walk rate. We just don't get a lot else. He's a speedy Luis Arraez type, which would be a major compliment to this kid. But that's all he really is at the bottom. So maybe you grab him for cheap and wrap him back around and use him to fill second base and hope you scratch out a couple base hits and then one of these guys knocks him in. For that purpose, I think he's actually more appealing probably than this stretch of hitters who are slightly more expensive, because it does give you another bite at the apple to put ahead of the power bats. So like if we 5-man that and just went straight down the line, that becomes a $4,500 average for three guys who were priced around 4,500 plus Aaron Judge, who is 2,000 more expensive than that on the sticker. And we price up Jordy Vivas. That's not a bad way to roster the Yankees. Just a terrible matchup against Michael King, who, again, very, very good. This would go Michael King. I'm going to fly in the face of Vegas here and say the Padres bats above the Yankees bats. Then the Yankees bats, and then Clark Schmidt. And Clark Schmidt, again, really only a DraftKings option for the cheap price. Got both of these in. Andrew Abbott looking like a target to me. I know he's got a good strikeout rate, 29.1%. That can always play against the Braves. But so far this year, this team hasn't been terrible for strikeouts at a 20.6% rate. That's down a little bit from last year when they were at 22. I would expect that it'll go back up in the overall. There's tons and tons of power in this lineup. Abbott, over his 4 starts, has given up a 3.8% home run rate on 11.4% barrels. He's a major fly ball trajectory at 21.4 degrees. Average launch, 3.8%, 88.8 miles an hour. Of exit velo is not bad, and so is a 25% hard hit rate is actually spectacular. So it does kind of align with some mistakes, but when he makes those mistakes, they tend to travel in a big, big way. Same thing was true last year, 4.27% home run rate, despite very good ability to limit exit velo, limit hard hits. But there's a lot of barrels there. There's a lot of a major fly ball. So the mistakes get out frequently against this pitcher. He also went up 10 points in the small sample by strikeout rate. I would expect that to normalize, considering with the essentially same CSW. Gained a few points of swinging strike, but not enough to justify that bump in strikeouts. He's also walked 15.2%. That probably also normalizes, but it normalizes to like a 9-10% walk rate. It's a problem for this pitcher. 2.84 ERA, not really real. 4.50 xFIP, pretty much in line with expectations. All this is pretty similar. This strikeout rate is kind of in line with that. That came on a 10.9 and a 26.9. Both numbers a little bit higher than here, but not really something that would justify that much of a difference. Okay, keep an eye on where the strikeouts go. That's going to be what makes on the wrong day when you attack him, Andrew Abbott beat you, is if he has the big strikeout day. That's what happened again when we used the Orioles to target him a few starts back. He struck out 11 that day. He had a monster. The other 3 starts, he had a 3 strikeout day, a 4 strikeout day, and a 5 strikeout day. Last 2 starts, he only lasted 4 innings. One was at Coors, 4 earned runs, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts. Faced St. Louis in a home game. Struck out just 3, walked 4. Went through 4 innings, allowed just 3 hits, 1 unearned run, but that's not a good DFS start. He got lucky to get through that unscathed. He had a 0 ERA in that game, but his xFIP for that game was 6.34. Targetable pitcher. At 8,400, you could throw a few dice at it, but I would probably prefer almost all of the $7,000 pitchers. Just take the bigger discount. I really don't think it's worthwhile because the Braves, again, showing just this stretch of 3 guys is so dangerous for power upside, and they're showing it today. And then you get into Ozzie Albies, underperforming, but still a really good player. Sean Murphy, major power. Not much else, but major power. Michael Harris, another guy, much better than his numbers so far this year. Yes, there are flawed hitters in this lineup, but there's 7 dangerous hitters in this lineup, or 6 dangerous hitters in this lineup. Did my math wrong there. So it doesn't feel like the day for Abbott for me. Chris Sale, on the other hand, 88.99. Fire away. 29.3% strikeouts, 5.7% walks, a 4.84 ERA, but a 3.26 xFIP underneath it. He's given up a couple home runs, a couple of barrels along the way. The 3.18 home run rate is totally manageable, but kind of defies those numbers. 10.1% barrels explains the 3.1 in the small sample home run rate. You can see Stuff Plus up to 105. He got through last year's spectacular season with a substandard Stuff Plus number. That's why, again, Stuff Plus, not the do-all, end-all. There's also Location Plus, Pitching Plus that explains other aspects of pitching, obviously. But he's terrific at finding his Ks. 14% swinging strikes last year, 14% this year. CSW's down slightly, but that should come back over time. The xFIP is in line. Everything about Chris Sale looks pretty much on form. 8,800 is very cheap. You're getting him against a Reds team that's striking out at just a 20.4% clip on the average here, but all of their key bats have at least some strikeout in them. You've got low-end strikeout number from Noelvi Marte so far, over 73 plate appearances, but last year he was at 31% in his sample, whatever amount of games he played. We'll see where that averages out. Maybe it ends up in the low 20s somewhere, but I think we're going higher than 16.4, and against Chris Sale, I don't think that 16.4 is very real. Santiago Espinal is the one truly low strikeout hitter. TJ Friedel a little bit as well. Everybody else is very gettable, and you're talking about one of the best strikeout pitchers over the last decade. If you're considering Reds bats for contrarian reasons, it's another spot where just like, why do we want to target Chris Sale? Yeah, you got two good options in Ellie De La Cruz, who's fully priced at $6,037, and Matt McClain, who has been dramatically underperforming, and now you're throwing him up against one of the best pitchers in baseball. But at least you're starting there. I would point out that you're getting Ellie right-handed, not left-handed, which is a diminishment. Where are we going after that we want to use to target Chris Sale? Tyler Stevenson, who is a decent power bat at catcher, but only really when he's sneaky or when we're really aggressively stacking the Reds. He's priced at $5,000 on DraftKings today. That's silly. Not that appealing. Espinal is a slap hitter. Is a low strikeout contact hitter, but he doesn't give us much DFS upside outside of correlated scoring. And if nobody down here is going to be at low reliable, there's really not much there. Spencer Steer is a better hitter than he's been, but again, not really looking to throw him at Chris Sale, especially not when we're just carrying a 28.6% hard hit, slashing 200, 279, 318 over 122 plate appearances, 297 xWOBA. Not much meat on the bone outside of Ellie, Matty McClain. I would probably start top three if I had to roster this team. See if I could get away with the three-man. At least you're filling second base with a good player. McClain underperforming at 162, 82, 290, 61 WRC plus. At least he's hit 4 home runs and stolen 6 bases, made some okay contact at 12.7% barrels, 46% hard hits. But it's been a bumpy ride. A lot of strikeouts there too. 31.6 this year, 28.5 2 years ago in a full season. Another James Wood home run. Dude is mashing. So, really low-end option on the Reds. If we're going Braves, though, it's all about grabbing those three guys. Love the power upside there that we're showing. 11.87 is the low man. That's Matty Olson against the lefty. I'll take the power upside from Olson, especially if we chase Andrew Abbott early. For 4,600, that's a discounted Matt Olson. Everything about Olson is right in place. 17% barrels, 57.4% hard hits, way up, and a correction back to the Olson that we know. Look how close these numbers are to those numbers. Technically, they're higher. This was his monster season 2 years ago. Big dip last year, but in a vacuum, those are still spectacular numbers. It's just not the elite level Olson. He's only hit 6 home runs. He's only slashing 225, 372, 417. The 372 is dynamite. The contact, the on-base skills, everything showing in that 414 xWOBA. His creator runs 25% better than average, and they're going to price him at 4,600. Silly. 3,100 on FanDuel. Take advantage. Austin Riley's hit 8 homers. Looks a lot like Austin Riley to me. 19.8% barrels, 53.1% hard hits. One of the best home run hitting third baseman in baseball. Easily 500 too cheap on DraftKings at 48. 3,400 is more correct on FanDuel, but you could have easily priced him at 36, 37. Against this pitcher, easy. I like building down through these couple spots rather than using that guy. I am just not a Verdugo fan. Over 65 plate appearances has been fine. 322, 385, 441. You do want to include that spot in your stacks if you're building a lot of Brave stacks. If you're building one, again, I would probably just look at something like that. But he does at least help bring down the average, and he hits ahead of those guys. So he is in a good correlated scoring spot. So I reluctantly will include him in the conversation, but I'm much more interested in rostering a cheap Ozzy Albies at 4,700, 2,900, filling second base, 5 home runs, 5 steals. Just a 285 xWOBA is concerning. So 140 ISO has not hit for much power in about 2 years. But 2 years ago, over 660 plate appearances, 33 homers, 13 steals, a 124 WRC plus, a 233 ISO. Year before that, he missed some time, just 269 plate appearances that season. But Ozzie Albies is better than this. Murph has been mashing 7 home runs on the board, 15.2% barrels, a lot of strikeouts, medium walk rate, good run creator. Not a bad option at 4,600. You can play Murph on FanDuel. It becomes a back and forth between these two guys, just with the way the first base catcher util thing works. There's nothing wrong with putting them both in. They're both carrying enough upside there. But since we're kind of homer hunting with both guys, Olsen and Murphy, it's not my favorite to put both of them in a lineup. I tend to go one or the other one if I'm building a bunch of Brave stacks. Eli White, mix and match guy, 32-25, holding down a good 63 plate appearances so far. Is productive enough hitter that you include him for the cheap pricing. Michael Harris, again, much better than his 140 plate appearances have been so far this year. I expect him to return to form, but difficult to justify with some of the numbers in the underlying 301 xWOBA, the bad contact numbers. Getting difficult to see him in there, but he's there. And then Nick Allen's just an infielder. This goes Chris Sale and the Braves bats tied at the top. Andrew Abbott's just a dart, and he's not really priced like one. I really probably wouldn't go there. If you do it, it's probably on DraftKings at 84. And then Reds bats, it's kind of similar. Pretty bad option. You can get there just in a contrarian sense, but Vegas is telling you no at a 350 implied total. Ellie on the wrong side. McLean struggling. Really don't like it. Speaking of really don't like, here's the White Sox. Probably got their lineup in. We do. No Lubob in their lineup today. That's a downgrade. It's challenging when you're downgrading the quality of the White Sox lineup by not including their best player. Royals are also in. Check out the website. It's rotoscouts.com. The lineups that were confirmed when we started the show are up there already. These new ones that we're adding to the sheet here during the show, we're going to get up as soon as this show is over. Takes about 5 minutes total to update the whole thing. Little arts and crafts session, copy pasting things across. Baseball, basketball for tonight's 2-gamer, hockey for tonight's 2-gamer. Those are already up on the site. You can get access to everything for under $1 a day. Looking to keep the money in your bankroll, help you grow that bankroll with projections for all 3 major sports, football when it comes back. Additional tools for baseball as well. We got the top stacks tool on the board. Got a power index where it shows kind of the aggregate home run model numbers. Got individualized home run picks for every team, every slate. A lot going on at Rotoscouts. Got a good Discord going too. Discord's free to everybody. Hop in there. I'll drop a link. Actually, there's a link in the description. I always forget to mention that. As you're going down to the link in the description to join Discord, hit the like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's it. Plugs over. White Sox, 3.46 implied total without Lubob. That'll probably come down even further. They're going up against Seth Lugo. Respectable enough pitcher. Again, you get excellent depth out of Lugo. 44 innings already over his 7 starts. Striking out, fine, 19.9%. That's Lugo-esque. A 3.07 ERA, but a 4.03 xFIP resembles last year. 3.0 ERA, but a 3.83 xFIP. Struck out 21.7. Give you 206 and 2/3 innings over 33 starts, which is excellent for just working his way through games. Doesn't really get in trouble. Doesn't really walk anybody. 7% this year, 5.7% walk rate last year. So as a strikeout to walk ratio, he's very solid. 109 whip. He's not a standout in really any way, but he's always good. He's always playable / serviceable. These are not incorrect prices for Lugo against a better team than this, honestly. So getting him at those prices against this White Sox squad without their best player, that's downright interesting. Really like him over here. Hyper usable as an SP1 on DK. And honestly, going back to that conversation, the idea of going like Lugo Liberator, very interesting. It's not either one of them at a super discount, but getting 2 medium prices together for 2 upside pitchers who were pitching well, that's kind of interesting. Chris Sale, obviously at 88, is a member of that conversation as well, but he's a different animal, going to be owned differently. Really interesting option with Lugo, though. Sean Burke is just a hard no. 4.91 ERA, a 5.18 xFIP. There's no justification really for playing Sean Burke at all. 17% strikeouts, 9.5% walk rate against a team that's spectacular at limiting strikeouts, draws their walks, puts great bat on ball, steals bases. There's nothing to like about Sean Burke today. Kansas City Royals, 5.16 implied total. We'll get to that in just a sec, but we'll look at the White Sox real quick. If you're going that way, it's probably not a great decision, but if you're doing it, Chase Meadroth belongs in your lineup. 273, 396, 295, gets on base like crazy. 3 stolen bases so far, low strikeout, high walk rate. That's all you get out of him. He's not a power bat in any way, so he needs help for correlated scoring. And what are you putting him with? The way I would use Meadroth is maybe as a just cheap spot filler at second base. If I've built a full lineup, I'm building, say, a 4-3 on FanDuel. I've got a Paul Skeens or Chris Sale or whoever at the top. I've built my whatever stack with whatever. And now I've just got, damn it, I don't have a lot of money left. I've got second base open, $2,300. That's where I would use Chase Meadroth. I have no desire to stack up this White Sox team, though. Miguel Vargas hitting second, 223, 319, 322, a 295 xWOBA. No justification for upside in any of his history. Just not a good player. Matt Thaiss, 3,000, 2,400. All right, so you've got 2 catchers to use. Thaiss and Edgar Quero. Neither one expensive. Between the two, give me Quero. Over 60 plate appearances, he's a 314, 417, 373. We've seen Matt Thaiss hit for power before. 8% barrels, 40% hard hits last year, 10-4, 40.7 the year before. But it's all in a very limited sense. That resulted in 2 home runs over 186 plate appearances last year while slashing 204, 323, 299 with an 83 WRC plus. Similar numbers the year before, but at least he came away from that contact with 9 home runs. Saw better results, but that's like a great example of what we mean when we say home runs are very wonky, very fickle, because that's essentially the same contact, a couple more barrels. But now he's hitting third. That guy, that's terrible. Quero is at least playable. Andrew Vaughn is at least cheap at 2,500 at first base. He remains their second most appealing hitter, but he's disconnected from their most appealing hitter by 4 guys. And he's been terrible so far. 178, 219, 287. A 322 xWOB is at least hovering around the average. Tells us we should get back to like replacement level numbers. This is the encouraging thing. 15.3% barrels, 51% hard hits. It's just, I don't know where those balls are landing. That this is the production we're getting. A 109 ISO off of that? That's silly. Either he's getting massively unlucky. I really don't know what's going on there, but it's not appealing outside of the price. Josh Palacios, Brooks Baldwin, Josh Rojas, and then we get down to our next favorite bat, Michael A. Taylor. Any day we're talking about Michael A. from the 9 spot as the third most appealing hitter in the lineup, you should probably get the hint that it's not a good spot. I say get the hint like you guys are shouting at me like, but no, we got to play the White Sox. Yes, Larry. Yeah, that'll probably come through in Vegas. The thing I do with the pitching, typically the pitching projections go up and they're not blocked, but they don't change much through the day unless we get major line movement. But in a situation like this where that lineup gets notably worse, this game probably comes down by, I don't know if it comes down by half a run based on no Lubob, but there's probably enough impact that I'll at least give it a look and see what I can do to give Lugo a little bit more credit there. I just like Lugo against this lineup because he's so likely to go 7 innings. He's so likely to get you the quality start on FanDuel for a little bit of a discount from some of the top end pitchers. On DraftKings, again, so likely to give you the shot at the win because his team is very likely to destroy Sean Burke. We were just about to get into that, and we will. 5.16 implied total. The Royals look great. Jonathan India, we've talked about all season, just about the on base, setting the table for Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of these hitters. 340 xWOBA, 336 on base, everything jibes there. The production, the results have been off a little bit to start the season, but those numbers tell us everything's going to be fine, and he's doing his job at worst. 86 WRC plus, gonna go up over 100 pretty quickly. Bobby Witt, 9.6% barrels, 44.7% hard hits. Has resulted in 4 home runs, 11 steals, a very solid slash line. His created runs 47% better than average. Vinny, we're stuck at 191, 245, 375, but we have at least seen some flashes of power come through. We've seen good results in terms of the barrel rate, up to 9.2%. We're just still working on finding that full timing. Went from being one of the best, most reliable bat on ball guys in baseball to a little bit of a problem right now. As we've discussed a bunch of times, that bat speed went way, way up in the offseason, and he's trying to figure it out. 191, 245, 375. Not Vinny Pasquantino-esque, but we'll get there. He's just cheap. Sal Perez with his power upside. Sal's got a 15% barrel rate, a 46% hard hit rate. Sal's been crushing baseballs. The results have been mixed. 2 home runs, 238, 284, 373, but a 407 xWOB underlying. There's plenty of upside for Sal. The results will come. Michael Garcia has been tremendous. 322, 390, 496, 381 xWOB, a 150 WRC plus. Hitting the ball very hard, stealing bases, not striking out, drawing his walks. Big uptick in production from Michael Garcia so far this season. Fills 3 spots on FanDuel. Love it. Kevin Biggio is meh. Pretty skippable bat in this lineup. You can get a little bit of production out of him. There's a little tiny sliver of pop in that bat, even though it doesn't really show through the contact numbers. Every now and then he delivers, but he's high strikeout. Doesn't really fit with this team all that well, in my opinion. Drew Waters, mix and match quality, gives you a decent average, good shot at some correlated scoring, but not much else. Freddie Freeman, we've talked about, is a cheap catcher alternative in this lineup, given his bat on ball skills, his hit tool, but that's really all Freddie is. And then Kyle Isbell's another mix and match guy. So it does thin out in the bottom 4, but the top 5 in this lineup, very, very good. And there's enough ability to turn the lineup down there against this pitcher that we're not really worried about it. Royals bats at the top in a big, big way. Seth Lugo immediately behind them. There's very little gap between how good both of those options are, and it's really nothing from the White Sox outside of maybe if I need a cheap spot filler from Chase Meadroth at second base. Giants and the Cubbies. Where is this game? Oh, there it is. Both of these lineups are in. It's Colin Ray on the mound for the Cubs, who, if you were here at the beginning of the show, I forgot, pitched for the Cubs. Again, I'm not sure that we've talked about him on a main slate yet this season. Refresh my memory if we have, but I feel like we haven't. I feel like we also, going back to the first game, I don't think we've had much Michael King on main slates yet. Which makes more sense, I would say. King pitching for a West Coast team. You'll lose a couple of those games sometimes. But anyway, Colin Ray on the bump, 7,300, 7,600. Going up against the Giants team with at least some strikeout upside available. 23.8 so far this year, 21.4 last year. There's some guys who are very, very good at avoiding the strikeout, like Young-Hoo Lee at 13.1% this year, 8.2% in a medium sample last year. But a lot of other guys strike out pretty aggressively even when they're going right. And some of these guys aren't even going right, like Lamont Wade right now. Maybe a slightly under the radar spot for Colin Ray. He's not pitching poorly over his 4 starts, his 24 2/3. There's 3 relief appearances in there. Last time out, he completed the 6th inning. That was against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. Went 6, 2 earned runs on 4 hits. Struck out just 2. Gave up a home run. Start before that, he struck out 7 Phillies, 2 walks, no earned runs on 3 hits over 5. And the first 2 starts was just kind of getting stretched out. It was 3 2/3, 4 2/3. Struck out 5 in both games, just 1 earned run against the Dodgers at LA and against the Diamondbacks. That's 2 pretty good lineups. Obviously not full starts, but as he's just getting ramped up, those are good results. Overall, it's amounted to 21.2% Ks, a 5.1% walk, 1.46 ERA, fully ignore, but the 3.77 xFIP for this pitcher is not bad. Last season, he was a 4.42 xFIP, struck out 18.9, but held down a decently low walk rate at 6%. He's kicked up swinging strikes slightly in the small sample. That would explain the uptick from 18.9 to 21.2. That's reasonable. Throwing more strikes overall at 29.3, up from 26.4. And he's done this before. 2 years ago, he was at a 21.3. Similar in terms of swinging strikes in CSW. He's just always been a little bit of a target for power, 4+% home run rate each of the last 2 seasons. A lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits, a lot of exit velo. Usually I'm talking about throwing bats at Colin Ray, and we will definitely consider that with some of these hard-hitting giants. But at 73, I think he's at least in that conversation on DraftKings for your cheap bargain bin type pitchers. There's just enough meat on the bone. It's not great, but none of them are. On the other side, $7,500 Justin Verlander. Normally it would be, yeah, I would much rather have Justin Verlander. It's just, this is such a threatening lineup. They're so good at getting on base, creating run-scoring situations. They come through with power. I really don't like tangling with these Cubs this year. Getting Verlander at 75 is appealing. Even this version. He's pitched to a 4.38 ERA with a 4.32 xFIP. Basically, who he is on the surface is who he is. But 12.5% swinging strikes has appeal. 20.4% Ks is pretty mediocre. So is an 8.3% walk rate. Got a lot of work to do there. Hasn't been bad for power despite a lot of fly balls. But just enough downside showing for the old man. And is he 42 now? A 4.43 implied total showing for the opponent. I just don't like it. I think he's on the board for shares. I think the projection is right where it needs to be. But it's a challenging spot for Verlander. We're basically fully stretched out, 6+ innings in each of the last 3 starts. Going through those, just 2 earned runs over 6 1/3 against Colorado in his most recent outing. Struck out just 4 and walked 1, gave up a homer, but a pretty decent start. Faced Texas over 6, 1 earned run, 2 runs allowed, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. Struck out 6, walked 2, gave up just 1 earned run on a solo homer, 2 hits to the Angels at LA. Those are 2 medium strength ball clubs and a terrible ball club, but those are encouraging results, and it's an encouraging progression of results for Verlander. So if you just want to believe in the trajectory of a pitcher just finding himself again, maybe you get a little upside, but the Ks would be nice to have. It's a relatively low strikeout lineup on the other side outside of a couple guys in the mix. So I really don't like the spot for Verlander. I think you can draw some Giants bats, but they're at a 3.66 implied total. Very, very low. Got an average WRC plus. I guess I shouldn't include the negative 100 there. Average WRC plus of just 96 for those top 8 hitters. But there's some bats that I do like. There's some bats I normally would be talking about throwing at Colin Ray. There's 2 guys above the magic number for home run upside. There's another handful of guys just underneath it. So I continue to think this is a disguised Giants spot, just kind of like it looked like yesterday. But that didn't really work out yesterday. So take that for what it's worth. If I'm going that direction, Yaz is a priority, 8.99 in the leadoff role as a home run model number. He also gets on base a ton, 387 on base right now, 357 xWOBA, 147 WRC plus. Been making great contact, and that's an attribute that he's sustained over multiple seasons. He's been good for strikeouts. Typically, he's higher. We'll see how that carries through. But he's drawing a bunch of walks, and that's another attribute that's positive for him. So I don't mind Yaz as a first click. $3,900 for Willy Adames is downright appealing. He's up to 223, 304, 353. We're starting to hopefully round into form. 10.6% barrels and 46.2% hard hits. We're not that far off the mark for contact. Willie's there. He's just cheap right now. So grab him while he's cheap. Young-Hoo Lee at 48.33 is probably a little bit cheap for the 303, 359, 485 he's put up. The 351 xWOBA tells us it's all real. Low strikeout, medium walk rate. Good option to throw at this pitcher. Another solid lefty bat, even if you're just looking for line drives and some base hits and correlated scoring, especially ahead of Matt Chapman, who's been rocking the ball. 7 home runs on the board, a 202 ISO, 359 xWOBA, a 50% hard hit, and 9.5% barrel. Wilmer Flores, mix and match quality, 7 home runs on the board. You can always stick Wilmer into a lineup. Not that appealing, but 42, 3,000, at least it helps the pricing work. I think at first base, Lamont Wade is probably the better of the 2 options considering how cheap he's gotten. 2,600 on both sites. Outfield eligibility too on the FanDuel slate. 7.01 compared to Wilmer's 7.64 in the home run model. He's scuffling badly this year. 108 plate appearances of 141, 252, 250. We know for a fact that Lamont Wade is much better than that. 119 WRC plus last year, 122 the year before while getting on base at a 373 clip, 380 on base the year last year. He's way too good for this to continue at this level. Just get him because he's cheap if you're going here. And again, it's another good lefty bat, even with the struggles, against a moderately talented righty, low-end righty. I won't give him more credit than that. Elio Ramos, good buy with all this cheap premium contact. 5 home runs on the board. 330 xWOBA tells us he's slightly underperformed, gotten a little bit unlucky. 8.67 in the home run model today. Bunch of homers last year. Like the option a lot for the cheap pricing. Patty Bailey, Brett Wisley, just mix and match quality. Bailey has not been good so far this year. There's a little bit of pop in the bat, but so far has not been coming through at all. And Brett Wisley just kind of filling in while Tyler Fitz is out. If we're going Cubs, it's the obvious guys again. Kyle Tucker at 63.46 is your first click every time. 9 home runs, 9 steals, getting on base at a fairly aggressive clip at 393, creating runs like crazy, fitting in like a glove with this Chicago lineup. 162 WRC plus. Ian Happ at 45.32 is very appealing. 287, 370, 407, creating runs 23% better than average. 3 home runs on the board. I talked about it the other day. The only thing that's been missing a little bit is the home run pace. Should have more like 5-6. But we're not that far off. 120 ISO is also notably low, but the contact is there for the most part. So I think we're going to be perfectly fine with Ian Happ. Seiya Suzuki at 57.36 is at worst fairly priced. He's got 9 home runs already this year, 285 ISO, 356 xWOBA, making excellent premium contact. Love the option if we're going to this team, lefty against Verlander. Michael Busch, Suzuki righty. Michael Busch is the lefty here. 5,200 from the left side for Michael Busch. 12% barrel rate. We'll see what this ends up looking like. It was a great start to the season. 261, 356, 496 carrying through. 235 ISO, 140 WRC plus so far. The hard hits are down a little bit from where you would think, given the results at 38.6. Kind of jibes with the contact he was making last year. Over 567 plate appearances last year. Hit 21 home runs, but went 248, 335, 440 at a 192 ISO, 119 WRC plus. Was good, but maybe not next level good. I feel like we're more that guy still than the star caliber hitter that we saw at the to start the year. Nico Horner, Pete Crow Armstrong, Dansby Swanson. One of these things is not like the others. PCA showing some real power upside this year. 9 home runs already, a 279 ISO. Mashing with a 13.4% barrel. Dansby's always had power. He's got 7 home runs on the board. He's scuffling in terms of the slash line, but the 331 xWOBA corrects that. The 211 ISO is right where it needs to be. 10% barrels and 49% hard hits. Still only cost $44,300 at shortstop. Great way to fill the shortstop spot. The outlier there is Nico, and it's hitting 5th. I guess as a table resetter, assuming power here, you get Nico on base ahead of these bats. But he's not great. 278, 321, 333. We're looking for base hits, on base, and speed and correlated scoring out of Nico. Miguel Amaya, John Birdie down lineup. Amaya and Carson Kelly going back and forth sharing the catcher job. 2 home runs out of Amaya. I'd rather have Carson Kelly most days. He's all right. And then Birdie is kind of like Nico, just here for resetting the table. A little bit of hit tool, a little bit of speed. Cubs bats, Giants bats. Justin Verlander last. And then I guess Colin Ray at 73 on DraftKings as a value dart. 452. I've got to pick up the pace a little bit. Larry says, good article on Judge in from Jason Stark in The Athletic today. I'll check that out. Love Judgy. Currently carrying or at least as of the other day, top 3 all-time WRC plus. Tim, what was it? Him, Barry Bonds, and Babe Ruth? Not bad company. I guess depending on what you're doing. Orioles lineup is in. Cade Povich is a target for Twins bats today. I don't think we're really considering Cade Povich, even at 5,000. It's a little bit difficult to see right now. Kid's got talent. I just don't know that we're fully engaged with it right now, given the 5.16 ERA, the 4.52 xFIP, just an 8.5% swinging strike rate, 18.7% strikeouts, way too many walks, and the reason we're targeting him, all of this juicy premium contact he's allowed. You can see Stuff Plus isn't really there for him. So I think we're just considering Twins bats and their solid 5.14 implied total. I mentioned the return of Royce Lewis in the lineup, 4,600, 3,000. First plate appearances of the season. Lost him in spring training. Very, very injury prone, but excellent from the right side of the plate when he's in the lineup. Going up against a weak lefty, it's a great day to target Royce Lewis shares. Let's put it that way. On the mound for the Twins, Pablo Lopez at 9,000, 9,500. Just a good lineup on the other side that's definitely been underperforming overall this season. There's more to give from the Orioles side for sure, but I don't love targeting them. They are at a sub-4 implied total because Pablo Lopez is very good. 2.25 ERA with a 3.17 xFIP, a spectacular 23.2% strikeout rate to 3.6% walks, gives him a very good strikeout to walk ratio. Just 4.9% barrels, really checking power via the home run. I like Pablo's upside, but 9,095 when I'm getting him at the same price as some of the top of the board pitchers. He is a top of the board pitcher, but I'm getting them around the same price as all these guys. I don't love attacking this Orioles lineup. They're going to start coming through more frequently. Doesn't really draw me to the Orioles bats today outside of maybe some contrarian shares. If I'm getting like one-offs of Gunnar Henderson, I'm fine with that. If I'm getting shares of Adley, I'm fine with that. But I don't know that it's a priority to stack Orioles today in any way. Just pushes Pablo a little bit down the priority list on the mound overall. But he's very playable. If we are looking at Orioles bats, Cedric Mullins in the top spot. It was a nice start to the year, but we're already down to 255, 379, 491. He does have a 352 xWOB underneath. 7 home runs, 5 steals at 236 ISO. I like him to continue hitting his power and finding his stolen bases along the way. We'll probably get a very Cedric Mullins kind of a season by the end of the year. Easily playable, but 5,300, 3,200. The price is better on FanDuel. The fact that he's 100 more than Gunnar Henderson is just laughable. Gunnar carrying a 260, 300, 433 slash line with way more to give than that. 56% hard hits, 8% barrels. Striking out a little bit too much, not really drawing his walks yet. Still finding his way, but a monster player once everything's clicking. Adley at 47 is a very affordable catcher bat. 8.9% barrels, just 16% strikeouts, and a 13+% walk rate, which is totally in line with his production over the last couple of years. He's hit 4 home runs, but he's scuffling in the slash line if you just look at the surface. 216, 320, 360, but an underlying 375 xWOBA. Same thing's true for the next hitter. Actually not, because Ryan O'Hearn's carrying a good back of the baseball card slash line of 306, 379, 600. He's also got a 401 xWOBA underneath that. 294 ISO, sporting some power this year. 14.1% barrels, 53.5% hard hits, and all of it looking very real. 181 WRC plus. He's been terrific since joining this Orioles team, and he's still cheap. Ryan Mountcastle, speaking of cheap, especially with O'Hearn carrying outfield eligibility so you don't have a positional conflict. Mountcastle's really appealing, guys. I just ignore this. 202, 243, 308. Throw it out the window. Throw the 106 ISO out the window. Even the xWOBA. And just look at this. 15.6% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. When he makes contact, the dude can mash. We have seen no good results from it this year. That's why he costs 36 and 26. He's a better hitter than this. That power is real. Pablo, not the best target for it. As stated, I'm not really rushing to roster the Orioles today. But if you are, take the cheap option with Ryan Mountcastle's power upside. Jackson Holiday at 34.27. We're okay with Holiday right now. 273, 340, 443. A 346 xWOBA, hit 4 home runs so far. He's looking like an actual major leaguer. With some upside to come, hopefully. Histon Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, Dylan Carlson, all 3 are playable parts. Dylan Carlson's shown us enough over the last couple of seasons. Kobe Mayo displayed some upside last year. Maybe it was in the minors that I'm thinking of. I thought we had a sample on Kobe Mayo last year. '24 in the minors. I was thinking of the minors. 406 plate appearances, mostly at AAA. 390 of them were at AAA. 293, 372, 592 with 25 home runs, 25.1% strikeouts, 10.3% walks. We know there's talent there. I really thought he had a bigger cup of coffee last year. It's really about the 1 through 6 if you're going here, but any one of these is a bolt-on part. It's just not a great day to build a bunch of Oriole stacks. Is a great day to build a bunch of Twin stacks. Byron Buxton, 5,000, 3,300 is too cheap. 7 home runs, 7 steals. Love the fact that he's running, as long as it doesn't result in an injury. 228 ISO, a 119 WRC plus, 14.1% barrels, 55.3% hard hits, looking every bit the part of Byron Buxton, including a pretty high strikeout rate at 32.4%. That's the flaw. 31.42 years ago, 25.5. That and the injuries are the concerns, but Buxton's a spectacular talent. You definitely want to get him into your lineups. Highest mark in the home run model at 11.23 from this team. Ryan Jeffers, a good option, 9.15, just 3,700 hitting second today on DraftKings as a catcher. There's appeal just in getting a catcher hitting second given the plate appearance bump. 8.2% barrels and 49.3% hard hits is nice from him as well this year. 2 years ago, those were similar numbers. He's hit 2 home runs, carrying a 278, 363, 433 slash line, creating runs 32% better than average. Very, very appealing option on either site, really. Ty France, take or leave. I would go back and forth between these two hitters. I think there are versions of this team on FanDuel where you could use both. On DraftKings, obviously, you can get to both. France is at 254, 326, 381, 381 xWOBA as well. 106 WRC plus. Good contact so far. I expect the power is going to realistically continue to cool, but he's a decent enough hitter in the 250 to 270 range with low strikeout, medium walk. Productive enough at those prices. I just don't want him if he's higher priced. Carlos Correa at 3,200, 2,600 is an absolute bargain. 216, 256, 304, and I just don't care. The 283 xWOB I care about a little bit. That's obviously very low and a little bit alarming. The premium contact taking a little bit of a dip so far. A little bit alarming. But that's why he's so cheap. So you just take the shots. On days where we're going to the Twins, we're just taking the shots. And I know I promised not to do it anymore, but half a season last year, he was still spectacular. 310, 388, 517, a 207 ISO, and 14 home runs. That's Carlos Correa. I love him at price today. Royce Lewis is just 4,600, 3,000. If you don't remember Royce Lewis, 325 plate appearances last year, was pretty mediocre in terms of the slash line, but a 452 slug in the end, a 219 ISO, creator runs 8% better than average in the medium sample, hit 16 home runs. Year before, in just 239 plate appearances, blasted 15 home runs, had a 240 ISO, creator runs 55% better than average by WRC+, 309, 372, 548. Royce Lewis is a star. He just cannot stay on the field. Take advantage of him while he's here and while his price is down. He is a 5,000 plus player by next week. Brooks Lee, Jonah Bride, Trevor Larnach, Willie Castro. I like the bottom two better than I like these two. Brooks Lee gives you a little bit of hit tool. He's put good bat on ball so far this year. I think he's very usable, especially with the second base eligibility, triple position on FanDuel. Jonah Bride can give you a little bit of power upside here and there, but he's been pretty bad this season, and the power is infrequent enough that he's pretty skippable. I do like Trevor Larnach's upside for power. He's hit 4 home runs this year. Just a 115 ISO at 310 xWOBA kind of flies in the face of the contact he usually makes, but it's totally explained by just a 4.1% barrel, 39.2% hard hits this year. Getting a little bit, unlucky is not the right way to say that. He's been off timing a little bit so far this year. But we have enough evidence over the last couple seasons that we know Trevor Larnach's got a lot of power from the left side of the plate. And then Willie Castro is just a good spot filler. 4 positions on FanDuel for 26. 2 positions on DraftKings at 31. You want him at second, not third on DK. He hit 12 home runs, stole 14 bases, creator runs 8% better than average last year over 635 plate appearances. It's a good option from cheap down lineup when nobody's going there. And you do want to differentiate a twin stack. So if you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, that's not a bad 5 to put onto that. And you get him at second base in that configuration. You're under 4,000 a man for that stack. It's 39.20 a man for Buxton, Jeffers, Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Willie Castro. against Cade Povich. It's a pretty good stack. High priority Twins bats top of the board. Pablo Lopez second. Then the Orioles bats. No Cade Povich. Astros and the Brewers. Chad Patrick, 20.3% Ks so far. Stuff Plus likes the arsenal. He's been okay at checking power despite some hard hits, some exit velo on a fly ball trajectory. This combination of factors tells me that we're probably going to see a higher barrel rate going forward. We'll probably see some more home runs delivered. Just a 2.87 ERA, kind of defied by the 4.47 xFIP. He's just been okay. He's very cheap, but he's going up against a Astros lineup that even with some underperformance, I still got to give the Astros their due. So I don't know how strong this spot is. They're just at a 3.89 implied total. That's the intriguing part. But Patrick, on DraftKings, maybe, if he was priced in the sixes, I just feel like that 74 being competitive with everybody else, a slightly better pitcher in a slightly better matchup on the other side of this game, or maybe not better matchup, similar matchup, for 200 cheaper, it's a difficult back and forth at that price. On FanDuel, you've got a $1,000 gap between those two. A little bit closer on the FanDuel slate. Maybe just usable there as a very cheap stepping stool type guy. Still no Brewers lineup in. Wisniewski, over his 5 starts, 28 innings, 23.2% K is a very strong strikeout to walk ratio. The really only thing that's gotten to him is the power. 9.9% barrels on a major fly ball trajectory, 40.7% hard hits, 89 miles an hour of exit velo is not problematic. That's actually somewhat encouraging. And as we've talked about, home runs very wonky. So a couple mistakes have traveled. 11.2% swinging strike rate is very solid. He's been good at keeping guys off base. He's an intriguing enough pitcher against a Brewers lineup that's showing a little bit of power against and has some good upside for on-base skills, but also has some soft spots for that. I think Wisniewski's usable. 7,200 on DraftKings at least. 83 on FanDuel. We get into dicier territory as far as that usability goes. Last time out and the time before that, just 5 innings in both starts, gave up 2 earned runs in each. Struck out just 1 in the last one. That was against the low strikeout Royals, but only 1K is not exactly ideal. Gave up just 2 earned runs on 8 hits. 2 earned runs on 6 hits to the Padres, another low strikeout team. Came away with 4 Ks and a walk against them. Gave up a homer. Any of the problems really came in the lousy game against the Angels. He had a 3 home run game, but those were the only 3 runs he gave up. 3 earned on 3 solo shots. 5 hits total. He struck out 10 in that game. Very mixed results. But it skews this a little bit. I think Wisniewski's interesting enough, especially right here. Over here, it's a challenge. I'm maybe more interested in the Chad Patrick option if I'm discount hunting on FanDuel. Astros currently striking out at a 22.5% clip. Several of these guys definitely scuffling, like we've talked about with Christian Walker. His strikeout numbers being way up. He did not hit us our home run that we were looking for yesterday to be sneaky. He does have a 10.05 in the model today. I do continue to believe in that talent coming through and eventually delivering the numbers that we're used to, especially based on the premium contact he's making. But it's getting difficult to see in the results, in the underlying 295 xWOBA. It's been an ugly 136 plate appearances for Walker. Jeremy Pena over 142 has been pretty good. We know that this will eventually cool to, well, maybe not. 357 xWOBA says that it maybe is going to be sustainable. Maybe it's real, but I have my doubts. Given what we've seen over the last couple of years, 266, 308, 394 last year before 263, 324, 381. That's about the range I would expect. It's not crazy far off where we're at. 15 home runs, 20 steals. I think that's about right. He's priced like that, 41, 3,000. Hasn't gotten too aggressive. FanDuel's up there a little bit more than maybe they ought to be. Probably like a $2,800 player if we're being honest. Altuve at 51.31 has not really been playing up to that DraftKings price so far this year. Just a 264 xWOBA, starting to get concerned. 259, 303, 378, 4 home runs, 3 steals, at least a little bit of counting stat ability. But it's been a bumpy ride with Altuve as well. And DraftKings hasn't really recognized that. FanDuel at 31 is probably shaved down a couple points, but it's not exactly cheap. Isaac Paredes, bad ballpark for him. 4,000, 3,000 is not a bad price, but we're looking at the version of Paredes where we're looking for on-base correlated scoring. 4 home runs on the season, all have come in their home ballpark. 7.77 in the home run model today, but some of that gets lost in the mix in this park. Jainer Diaz up to 222, 250, 361 after the awful start. We've talked about him plenty this year. The 10.5% barrels is encouraging. The hard hits will come along. The strikeouts are going back down. The walks are very low. He's always putting bat on ball. Just typically sees way better results than he has. He will be fine, I think, in the long term. But, well, no but. 3,400, pretty good price. Jake Myers, Victor Caratini, Brendan Rodgers, and Cam Smith going down the lineup. Myers is a mix and match piece, 301, 353, 441. You can always work him into Astro stacks. Better as a stacking option than anything else, though. Just another outfielder overall. Caratini has appeal as a $2,800 catcher. We talked about him yesterday. He didn't end up in the lineup. There's a lot of pop in that bat. 43.1, 44.7% hard hit rates each of the last couple seasons. Has decent home run output, 8 in 274 last year, 7 in 226 the year before, 9 in 314 the year before that. So you can get a cheap knock out of Caratini on the right day at just 28 on DraftKings. 24 on FanDuel. He's moderately playable if you're stacking this team. Rodgers, mixed results, but making very, very good contact. So any given slate, you can get upside out of Rodgers, even though the results have been very bad. And then Cam Smith has not really been that good outside of those 3 home runs. On the Brewers side, you can definitely, even with Wisniewski pitching pretty well and looking appealing, you can definitely grab some Brewers, especially when they're showing power upside like some of these guys. Christian Yelich at a 7.80 is the lowest of the premium bats in this lineup, and he's terrific. 6 home runs on the season, just a 169 ISO, but a 335 underlying xWOBA. 96 WRC plus is definitely going to climb as time goes on. Still making his excellent quality contact, 48.3% hard hits. He's right in line with expectations outside of those strikeouts being up a little bit. As that comes down, everything else normalizes, and Christian Yelich is just cheap. 4,500, 3,400. Well, cheap on DraftKings anyway. FanDuel got it right at 34. William Contreras at 4,400. Very playable catcher bat. 3 home runs, 4 steals. 361 on base is terrific. Just a 98 WRC plus. Not quite the bat he was last year so far. You can see that mostly in the barrel rate, down from 10 last year, 9.4 the year before, to 3.1 in a small sample of batted ball events. We know that that'll come around, or at least should. We have plenty of evidence to say it should. Bryce Turang maybe stole some of his barrels. That's a reverse of his numbers over the last couple of seasons. A little bit of body switching going on there. A little bit of Freaky Friday action. 315, 372, 400 for Turang so far. 3 homers, 8 steals. Good run creator. Interesting option. Hitting behind Jackson Chourio now is a choice, if this is the version of the lineup we get. Chourio carrying just a 268 on base. Starting to get a little concerned there. 289 xWOBA. The premium contact is fine. The strikeouts are fine, but he's just not drawing walks. 1.3% walk rate is really low. Has an impact. 98 WRC plus. He's also only homered 6 times. It's not a bad total, but it's not where we want it. Maybe I'm being greedy. Rhys Hoskins, 4 home runs on the board down here, making excellent contact. 11.8% barrels, 46.1% hard hits. He's drawing his walks. He's not striking out at the usual clip. 21.3% down from 28. I suspect that goes back up. We'd probably give back some of the walks in exchange for that. But he's looking like Rhys Hoskins of old right now. Love the power upside. 10.91 in the home run model against Wisniewski. Jake Bauers at 8.34, playable for a cheap price, making great contact so far, 15.4% barrel rate, over 51 plate appearances and fewer batted ball events, but has resulted in 2 home runs. Not a bad power bat. Isaac Collins, Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin going down the lineup, mix and match pieces all. Joey Ortiz was the most proven coming into the year, but he's been the worst. Nobody really to go out of your way for in that group, though. Collins performing the best currently, 260, 339, 400, a 109 WRC plus, a pretty pedestrian 309 xWOBA tells us that'll come down, but at least it's better than those 2 guys. Astros bats, Brewers bats. Wisniewski, Patrick, mostly on DraftKings for both those guys. Maybe a cheap dart or two at 73 on FanDuel, but it's pretty thin. How you guys doing? You hanging in there? Sam's here. G'day. Good to see you, buddy. Monty Pritchett. Monty saying Correa, another player that historically performs better with the warmer summer temps. He's spoken about that in the past, how he preferred the roof open in Houston even in summertime. Good note. Didn't know that was something he had called out in the past. Obviously, Minnesota, not ideal for that. Monty says, adds, yesterday was the first time since 2004 that Houston had not. Wow. That's a long time. First time since 2004 that they had 9 right-handed bats versus a right-handed pitcher. Desperately need another lefty or switch hitter to join Caratini, middle of the road team. Yeah, look, accidentally hit a key that almost made the streaming site reload. That would have been bad. Yeah, obviously, losing Kyle Tucker and then having Jordan Alvarez out is a pretty monster impact to any lineup. But yeah, they definitely have some work to do. They're kind of in rebuild on the fly mode, I would say. Pirates, Paul Skeens on the hill, favored in this game against the Cards. 3.61 implied total on the Pittsburgh side, 3.46 implied total on the Card side. Just a good pitching matchup. Matthew Liberatore for 9,000 has been good. Look at that strikeout to walk, 22.6% Ks, a 2.3% walk rate. Pitching to a 3.44 ERA with a 2.91 xFIP, sub 1 whip. I got to say, I was not really, and it's only 6 starts, 34 innings, but I wasn't really expecting the jump. Last year, over 86 in 6 starts and some relief work, a 4.40 ERA with a 4.17 xFIP, did have a good swinging strike rate, but was losing too many hitters, 7.8% walk, was significantly higher than it is right now. Was decent as far as the premium contact numbers go. Average fly ball trajectory, 7.1% barrels, and the hard hits and exit velo are all fine. Hard hits exit velo actually up a little bit so far, but it hasn't burnt him for home runs. Stuff plus has gone up a little bit, so some positive indicators there. It's way up from where he was 2 years ago in 11 starts. Not a ton of sample over time, but we've got multiple seasons of mediocrity. It's a nice uptick to see from a kid who was supposed to be good. At 82, I love the price. I like the target on the other side with Pittsburgh. There's plenty of strikeouts here for him. Their key bats, even including McCutch at just 17.7, that's still a 24% strikeout rate on average because O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds both strike out a fair amount. Alexander Canadio down here puts great bat on ball when he makes contact, but also swings and misses quite a bit. Last year in a medium sample, 39.3%. The year before in a small sample, 47.1%. Actually, sorry, that was only 28 plate appearances in 17. That's not really fair to count, but those carried through to the minors, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he was 100 plus last year. In 283 AAA plate appearances last year, 30.4% strikeouts, 11.3% walks. Year before in 233 AAA plate appearances, 27.5% strikeouts. So I was right. I was just wrong about the sample size and the level. Matt Gorski is the dead min price on DraftKings, $2,300 option on the FanDuel slate. He's got a home run on the board in 16 plate appearances. Since we haven't really looked at Matt Gorski this year, we'll pull him up. He's 27 and change. In 433 AAA plate appearances last year, he hit 23 home runs, stole 15 bases, /257, 319, 522 with a 265 ISO. Year before, in 461 minor league plate appearances, mostly AA work, 396 of those at AA. Came away with 20 combined home runs, 23 steals, 231, 291, 434, with bad for on base there. Bad for run creation, only totaled a 91 WRC plus, despite the good individual numbers. 202 ISO. So a reasonably competent power bat with other years of minor league history. But the fact that he's 27 and we're really just now getting him, probably more a quad A player overall. But at the dead min price, we're just looking for one good batted ball event, really. And it's against a lefty who's been mediocre over time. Not even in good form, not a very high strikeout lefty. So you would have the presumption of a little bit of contact opportunity. Not bad if you're going to roster the Pirates. And then bottom of the lineup with Triolo Paghetto and Henry Davis. Not necessarily great strikeout targets, but not huge samples on any of those. Paghetto actually last year, did he strike out more? 10%? Yeah, 213 plate appearances back here with Paghetto. 74 WRC plus, 237, 280, 374. We know that Henry Davis is scuffled at the major league level. Triolo gives you a little bit of upside, but really hasn't come through over 60 so far this year. So it's a playable spot for Liberatore. He could come away with a few bonus strikeouts against this team. I like him at 82. I like him at 9,000. Would play on FanDuel. But we're obviously bearing the lead with Paul Skeens on the mound. 24.8% Ks, a 4.8% walk, 2.74 ERA, and a 3.02 xFIP. Has not been at peak form. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. Last time out against the Cubs, he scuffled for him. 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, 3 earned runs that all came on home runs. 5 innings, just 5 hits. Took the loss. Bumpy start. 6 1/3 spectacular innings against the Dodgers the start before that. 9 strikeouts, 5 hits, no runs. Finished 7 against the Guardians. Struck out just 4 in that one. 1 walk, home run allowed, but only 2 earned runs. But again, not quite up to peak Skeens yet. Good spot for him to get there today. Despite the low strikeout rate at 17.5% for this group, it's a low-end Cardinals lineup. Really like the upside for Skeens at any price today. Think we can fire away with shares there. 3.46 implied total on the card side. Their bats are going to be very limited against this pitcher. It's not a great way to get contrarian in my mind, targeting the best pitcher in the league, as I said about 2 guys who were on the short list for that title. Prefer the Pirates bats if you have to draw bats from this game. You're absolutely prioritizing O'Neal Cruz at 59.37. He's got 8 home runs and 14 steals. He's been mashing baseballs like we've talked about a lot this year. This is the big breakout season in progress. 423 xWOBA tells us there's much more to come. Brian Reynolds at 12.7% barrels and 48% hard hits. Definitely a top priority option. 3,700, 2,900. He's gotten cheap for the underperformance on the back of the baseball card. Just ignore that. Focus on the 367 xWOBA. Focus on the excellent premium contact. The 5 home runs are right where they ought to be. He's just gotten cheap for no real good reason. McCutchen, barreling a lot of balls, really cheap as well. 44 on DraftKings is medium price, but 28 on FanDuel is very cheap. 3 home runs, 372 xWOBA for him, creating runs 10% better than average already. Love the upside. Key Brian Hayes just puts decent bat on ball, but never really drives it, never really comes away with great results. He's playable, but he's also highly skippable in the middle of the lineup. Ganadio is an interesting option despite all those strikeouts. He does have power upside in that bat. 1 home run on the board in 42 plate appearances, several good batted ball events that we're chasing, but it's very chasey to use him. 2,400, 2,200 against a good pitcher. Gorski I just talked about with that minor league upside, and then I just talked about those guys going down the lineup. That was while we're talking about the pitcher. Lars Nootbaar would be a top priority bat to throw at Paul Skeens, but again, we're really not targeting Paul Skeens here. 44-32 for Nootbaar, 5 home runs, 4 steals against another pitcher. We'd be talking about it because he's good on base option, good table setter for the rest of this lineup, and he's got individual upside. Not against Paul Skeens. Mason Wynn, normalizing the numbers a little bit, 268, 351, 427. His career runs 21% better than average. 3 homers, 2 steals over 94 plate appearances. I suspect he'll be just fine going forward, and he's not expensive, but again, Paul Skeens on the mound. Brendan Donovan, 44-31, multi-position eligible. One of the more appealing bats from this lineup. Good, like medium contact hitter, 40-ish% hard hits last couple of seasons. 336, 393, 481. So far this year. That's the top end of Brendan Donovan. I don't expect that to continue, but something in the 280 range with a 370s on base, 360s on base wouldn't be totally shocking. But again, Paul Skeens. Nolan Arenado, bat's not quick enough to catch up with Skeens. Wilson Contreras, struggling right now. Limited option at first base. He's at 252, 327, 400. We're at least up to 5 homers. The 356 xWOBA tells us that bat's going to come around where we expect it. The barrels and the hard hits are down, but the barrels are an exact match for where he was last year. There's some good indicators here, but just the value that he provides at first base, outside of just being priced at 3,200, is more limiting than he was as a catcher. So against Paul Skeens, no. Burleson, Pozo, Walker, Victor Scott, pretty rough going down this lineup. Not a lot of great run creators down there. Victor Scott's at least speedy, and he's getting on at a 352 clip, but let's see what he does against Skeens before we get excited. Walker's been scuffling badly, 30.4% strikeout rate for Skeens to exploit. Pozo, not much sample, another a cheap catcher option late in the lineup. And then Burleson's just another outfielder in a bad spot. Paul Skeens, Matthew Liberatore, Pirates bats. Really no Cardinals bats. And Pirates are pretty limited as well. This game got rained out. Don't play the Rockies. Don't play the Tigers. Don't play either pitcher. Talk about Coors Field tomorrow. Yeah, Larry, I haven't dug in on Liberatore, but just kind of having the numbers pop at me today. I ran out of time prepping for the show and putting all the background stuff that I am barely looking at as I go through this together. I've got a whole Word doc over here with just all the game logs and everything that I can glance over at. And then some days I put in a lot of the stuff plus boards and some of the different pitching mixes. I just didn't get to it. But definitely that popped for me like, I got to take a look at what he's actually doing because the results have been good. Jays and the Angels, 2 solid run totals in this one. We have the Angels lineup. They are still short one Mike Trout. We do have a good home run mark on Jorge Soler in the heart of that lineup, which I kind of like as a inexpensive one-off, given what we know about this hitter's home run history. 10 plus, 10.44. I think it was over 11 earlier. Came down slightly. But love the upside. 3,500 for Jorge Soler. Carrying a 13.6% barrel, a 42% hard hit rate. 6 home runs. Sure, it's not great total, but it's only 131 plate appearances. 212 ISO. He's been hitting the ball very hard and seeing some decent results for it. Creating runs 4% better than average. I like much of this to go up. Any given slate, monster power upside. He's facing Jose Urena, who has thrown 3 innings in the show this year. Has a 15 ERA, which is kind of high. An xFIP that is a third of that. He's given up a few home runs. That was it amounted to 3 innings in a bulk relief appearance against the Nationals while he was pitching for the Mets. Allowed 5 earned runs to 17 hitters on 7 hits. Struck out 3 and walked 1 and gave up 2 home runs. Made 3 starts in the minors for the Mets. And did not pitch particularly well. Had a 5 strikeout game over 4 innings. 2 hits, no runs against the Toronto AAA affiliate. It's a pretty targetable guy. Come on. Last season, Urena in a larger sample in the show, 9 starts, 109 innings, 3.80 ERA, but a 4.60 xFIP, 15.1% strikeouts, 8.4% walks, low-end swinging strike rate, even lower-end CSW. The premium contact was manageable. He was good at cutting launch down to okay levels. You can still get him for power, though. And then this year in a smaller sample, while keeping to a similar launch angle, allowed still a 6.40% home run rate, 10.6% barrels. Just mistakes, travel. It's a bad pitcher. There's enough in the Angels lineup at a 4.44 implied total that I think you can draw some stacks. They're very cheap. You do have an upside bat like Jorge Soler. You've got another one in Zach Neto at the top of the lineup. If you haven't noticed, Neto in his 61 plate appearances after his, if you didn't notice, season of last year, over 61, we're at 4 home runs and 5 steals already. 288 ISO, a 434 xWOBA, 16.7% barrels and 50% hard hits. Last year, over 602. Neto hit 23 home runs, stole 30 bases. It's a burgeoning star. Nolan Shanuel, excellent ability to get on base. Right now, he's at just 320, just a 291 xWOBA, underperforming his talent levels. Not a great barreler of baseballs. Not one who barrels the baseball frequently. But low strikeout, high walk. Interesting hitter who should probably be hitting leadoff with either Neto or Soler hitting second. But we won't quibble. Good enough bat to include in stacks for 3,100 at first base. Taylor Ward, another respectable enough right-handed power bat. He's hit 6 home runs. He hasn't done much else this season, so ignore the slash line, ignore the xWOBA being so bad, the WRC plus being super low end. There's like fire trucks and all kinds of craziness going on outside. I just hope they're not coming here. Logan O'Hoppe with his power upside, 9 home runs from the catcher spot in just 104 plate appearances. 286 ISO, a 355 xWOBA, excellent premium contact against Jose Urena. Yes, fire away. He's just 4,000 where you have to play catchers. 29 where you don't, but you can use him like a first baseman. Love the option. Top 5 right there as a straight line stack. 3640 a piece. So call it 3,700 a piece. I'm getting Neto, who is a borderline star already. I'm getting Shanuel in his on-base skills, plus a decent enough bat. I'm getting Soler with all his home run upside, Ward, and Logan O'Hoppe in there. And I'm averaged down at 3,700 a piece to target Jose Urena. It's a great, great opportunity for value. Same thing on FanDuel, but it's just less interesting with the 4-man stack. Joan Moncada going down the lineup, 4,200 has had a pretty weak 27 plate appearances and honestly a pretty weak career after a lot of rumors about him being so good when he first came out of Cuba. But he's not that guy. Luis Rengifo is an interesting hitter. Struggling so far over 119, 221, 252, 292. Uncharacteristically bad across the board. Better than this. Good run creator last year. Gustavo Campero, 2,300 across the board. 10 pretty weak plate appearances this year. 48 plate appearances last year with 1 home run, a 73 WRC plus. Give him a quick look. .432 minor league plate appearances last year as a 26-year-old. Another guy, kind of more quad A player, but hit 14 home runs, stole 33 bases. Got on at a 392 clip. Creator runs 56% better than average. Year before that was this year in AA. Year before in 245 plate appearances, mostly in high A as a 25-year-old. So again, take it with a grain of salt. 12 home runs, 20 steals, 330, 408, 632. He destroyed that league, but kind of unfair to have him at in high A at that age. But at least at 2,300, that's a playable guy against this pitcher. This is no more than a quad A pitcher over here. And then Kyron Paris has really come down. If you bought Kyron Paris stock, you fell for an NFT scam. 212, 295, 447. Still has the same 5 home runs and 5 stolen bases that he had like 10 days into the season. Oops. Blue Jays side going up against Tyler Anderson. He's 7780, 500. He's the more playable of these two pitchers, or the only playable one, but he's walking 10.2%. He's given up plenty of home runs and premium contact. 509 xFIP under his sparkling 2.67 ERA. This is the real number. Ignore this. 12.6% swinging strikes is good, but this is not a high strikeout squad on the other side. Not a great matchup for Ks. Don't really like the Tyler Anderson option. Definitely not on FanDuel. At 77 on DraftKings, he is at least a mixer in that group of SP2 $7,000 types. But that's really all he is. Low priority. Vegas sees it that way with a 4.65 implied total going in the Blue Jays direction. I think we're farming some bats here, if anything. Basically, everybody on the Blue Jays is underperforming their talent or just isn't that talented. It's this projected anyway. It's a little bit top heavy still, but it's stretched at least by having Dalton Varsho in there if he plays. When there's a lefty on the hill, you don't always get him. 17 pretty mediocre plate appearances so far, but he at least hit 2 home runs, got on base at a 353 clip in that stretch. But we might just be relegated to like those 4 hitters again, depending on what they do. Let's see if we got it in the last few minutes. Nope. Larry says Shanuel belongs in a different era. Poor man's John Olerud, Mark Grace. That's a good comp. I like the Olerud comp. We should get him a helmet for when he's playing first base. So, Bo Bichette, priority bat if you're going to the Blue Jays, 42.28. Honestly, not a bad one-off shortstop if you're just fishing around. Against a fairly high contact, pretty bad lefty who allows power. Bichette's slashing 288, 323, 384. He hit his first home run of the season the other day. He's carrying a 364 xWOBA. Doesn't really strike out, doesn't really walk. A lot of good bat on ball, 46.4% hard hits, even carrying an 8% barrel rate right now. That's a reasonable one-off for cheap pricing. 53.33 for Vladdy is cheap. 4 home runs on the board, a 395 xWOBA to support the surge that I know for sure is coming. 15.7% barrels, 52.9% hard hits. It's still Vladdy. Just play him if you're going Blue Jays. 53-33, I would absolutely consider one-offs. 9.86 in the home run model against a weak lefty. Anthony Santander, 41-3,000. Just 4 home runs, 295 xWOBA, really scuffling his way through his first season in Toronto so far. But we know what the powers look like over the last couple of seasons. He's just cheap for his talent, but he is starting to become more of a stretch. And, you know, you're really the top 2 and now George Springer are your really appealing bats. And then Santander is your 4th man in, but he's an absolute priority if you're going to this team. 47-31 for Springer, still pretty fairly priced given the return to form in the barrels and the hard hits and the slash line and the run creation mark. The 384 xWOBA underlying telling us that it's actually real. 3 home runs, 5 steals, a 202 ISO. Welcome back, George Springer. 47-31, not bad pricing. Alejandro Kirk is a mix and match catcher at those prices. 2 home runs on the board. He's very playable, but he's not a priority bat outside of just filling that catcher spot. He is low strikeout, does put decent bat on ball, but you're buying a medium type talent. Varsho, again, if he's in the lineup, there's opportunity there, especially once they swap Tyler Anderson out for a bad righty out of the pen. But you also just might not get him as a starter, get him as a defensive replacement late in the game or a pinch hitter late in the game. Ernie Clement, Miles Straw, and Andres Jimenez are all entirely skippable down lineup. Jimenez is probably the least playable out of that group now. 190, 272, 298, 9 stolen bases and 3 homers. He's the most talented guy in that mix, but he's just never really comes through with it. Angels bats, Blue Jays bats, despite those totals being the other way around. And really neither pitcher, but if you have to take a pitcher gun to your head, it's Tyler Anderson over Jose Urena every time. Just 2 games to go, Mets and the D-backs. Difficult matchups for both of these pitchers. I like David Peterson. I think he's more talented than he gets credit for. 3.06 ERA with a 2.89 xFIP, pitching fairly well. Just a 21.6% strikeout rate so far this year, but we've seen more Ks from him over time. Last year it was at 19.8%, but the year before, 26%. Year before that, 27.8%. So we know there's decent strikeout stuff there. Just differently focused right now. Keeping the launch angle way down at 3.5 degree average launch, limiting home runs to just 1.44% so far this year. Helps him check runs, helps him check upside, but the Diamondbacks pulling a 4.85 implied total. Believe the roof's open out there. You can see the monster totals on both sides despite some talent on the mound. Wouldn't totally shock me if either of these guys had a decent day. There's enough talent on the mound to say so. But Zach Gallen's a bumpy pitcher even when things are going, right? 4.93 ERA, 4.14 xFIP, nearly an 11% walk rate. Not that appealing despite the 26% strikeouts. And he's going up against an excellent Mets lineup when everything about these totals is saying, go to the bats, dummies. So I think at least this dummy, we're going to consider some bats here. You could roll these dice at 78. Less so here. Same thing at 8,000. Less so here, even less so at 89. Between the two guys, Gallen is the better of the two pitchers, but it's probably closer than one might typically give it credit for. Between the two lineups, probably slightly prefer the Diamondbacks, even though I think the Mets actually have the slightly better lineup. It's very, very close. Starting with the Mets, Francisco Lindor at just 51.37. At worst, he's appropriately priced. FanDuel's got it right at 37. 51 feels a little light on DraftKings. 7 home runs, 371 xWOBA, creating runs 35% better than average. Looking a whole hell of a lot like Francisco Lindor out there. Juan Soto, down to 5,000. He's 37 on FanDuel, which is correct. FanDuel's just not budging. They're saying it's Juan Soto. We're not going lower. DraftKings burn down their headquarters if he goes below 5,000. 5 home runs on the board, a 422 xWOBA, 134 WRC plus. It's Juan Soto. Let's be reasonable here. He's just getting cheap. Pete Alonso at 55.43, mashing his way through 160 plate appearances so far. 9 home runs on the board, one of the league leaders. 326 ISO, a 483 xWOBA, creating runs 115% better than average, looking a lot like the guy from across town again. Starlin Marte at 32-26. Bad start to his season. We know he's more talented than that. We're looking for line drives, base hits, some stolen bases, 12 to 15 home runs by the end of the year if he rounds into form. It's getting a little difficult to see, but the 324 xWOBA tells us everything should at least normalize to a replacement level. Brendan Nimmo, we get the premium contact, we get the power. The on base has gone away. He used to be a very good option for on base. That skill has just completely evaporated, partly around the dip in walk rate so far this year, but that was also true last year. Has become more just a lefty bat with some pop in it, but 4,300, 3,200, buying just that against this pitcher is not bad. 3.61% home run rate on 10.6% barrels allowed so far. Way too much hard hit, way too much exit velo on a 17.8 degree average launch so far for Gallen. So I do think Nimmo is in play today given his contact. Mark Vientos hasn't made great contact this year, made spectacular contact all through last year. 4 home runs on the board so far this year, hit a bunch in a medium sample last year. Just cheap, 3,400, 3,000, don't overthink it. Francisco Alvarez at 38-29, very much in play as a cheap catcher bat. Small sample so far this year, 1 home run on the board, 9.1% barrels, 45.5% hard hits. We've seen him go through crazy stretches of power upside and premium contact, so I think you just take him while he's cheap. Jeff McNeil, slap hitter, BABIP reliant. The results have been pretty weak over 33 plate appearances. His production comes and goes. He's always in the mix for cheap shares. If you need a cheap second baseman, he's there, but not appealing. And then Tyrone Taylor, you're just looking for that cheap one-off low-owned home run. He's got one of those so far this season. Creating runs 2% below average, but a decent enough xWOBA keeps him in play. Reasonable ability to put bat on ball. The Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte back up at the top of the lineup. They're pulling a 4.85 implied total. Super, super playable. Marte, 53-32. Couple bucks too cheap on both sites. They forgot who he was while he was gone. 44 good plate appearances to start his season. Spectacular year last year. Excellent barrel rate at 12.3% last year. Power, on-base skills, great table setter ahead of Corbin Carroll. If you get Randall Grichuk against the lefty, he's an interesting bat for just 2,600, 2,500, considering the bat on ball skills. Last year, 11% barrels, 47.6% hard hits. So far in a small sample of batted ball events this year, 10, 8, and 54.1. Hasn't come away with a home run, just a 157 ISO, just a 280 xWOBA underneath it. Really hasn't seen any good results. But that is terrific contact to throw at a lefty. We know Grichuk can hit home runs. Eugenio Suarez at 17% barrels and 58% hard hits, 10 home runs on the board. Ignore everything else other than the 362 xWOBA. It's a major, major source of power against any lefty. Josh Naylor at 49, 3,000, having a great start to his Diamondbacks career. 147 very good plate appearances, creating runs 37% better than average. The power should come around. It's not a great ballpark when they're at home for power for him, but if they pop the roof open, that obviously helps, and all the road games will obviously help. Very low strikeout, drawing a lot of walks so far this year. Really like the upside for Josh Naylor in the ongoing sense. Gabriel Moreno, very playable catcher option given the on-base skills. 320 on base right now, but been higher than that in seasons past. Still trying to find his footing for this season. 97, pretty weak plate appearances, but putting good bat on ball when he makes contact. 48.5% hard hits, low strikeout, pretty high walk rate. Given the skill set, I really like the upside when he gets this cheap. It's just, again, a good pitcher on the mound. Lourdes Gurriel, struggling so far this year. We know he's a better hitter than that, even in a line drive sense. He's got 5 oddball home runs so far, kind of defying the contact he's made outside of maybe the uptick at 8.9% barrels. I expect the home runs cool off as far as the pace goes, but the average and everything goes up to at least normal kind of ranges for him. Garrett Hampson, entirely skippable, but Geraldo Perdomo is a priority if you're stacking this team. Even in the 9 spot, he's an excellent source of on base and a dynamite way to wrap back around to the top. You get him at shortstop, no positional conflicts up there. Same thing on FanDuel. Really like the option. And there would be justification if they wanted to hit him up top. He's good enough to do it. And so far this year, 293, 403, 472, mostly filling in up top while Marte was out. Diamondbacks bats, Mets bats. Tie between Gallen and Peterson. I want to give it to Peterson, but I respect the Diamondbacks too much. I don't like Gallen that much, and I respect the Mets a lot. If I had a choice of another one of the, let's say 7,000 or 8,000 exactly, cap where Gallen is, pitchers on DraftKings, I would probably take whoever that was over either of these pitchers. Just because of the tough matchups, just because of the high run totals here. Pretty high danger spot for two talented guys. Last game up. Jim Parrish saying, hi there. I assume that's Santander. It would be Santander for me basically every time. Do we have that lineup yet? Especially with the lefty on the hill for Varsho. He gets platooned out of that lineup a lot because he scuffles against lefties. I still don't see that one confirmed. Come on. For Santander for the career, 247, 317, 456 as a righty hitter against lefties with a 209 ISO, 113 WRC plus. Against righties hitting as a lefty, 241, 300, 464, 224 ISO, 110 WRC plus. So he's very good either way. He happens to have hit more home runs total against righties as a lefty, but he's seen way more plate appearances. It's 116 home runs in 2,326 plate appearances versus 43 home runs as a righty against the lefty over 933 plate appearances. So those are roughly similar paces in a guerrilla math kind of estimation. So you don't really lose much with Santander either way. Where you do lose a lot going to Varsho if he's in the lineup at all. So firmly Santander despite the struggles if you're deciding between those two hitters. See what's come through here in the last couple of minutes. Jackson Merrill officially activated as of 39 seconds ago, so I would expect him to be in the Pods lineup. Tyler O'Neill went for is going to start a rehab assignment. They were saying he might be able to skip it. I was hoping to get that bat back. No other critical news. All right, last game. Jeffrey Springs, 76-77 against the targetable Mariners lineup that he succeeded against, targetable in terms of the expected numbers as far as strikeouts go. He did succeed against them in his first outing of the year, but they've been better overall as far as maybe cutting a little bit of that strikeout down. You also have a few guys helping that average if you're looking down at this number. The real bats are right there. That's a 24.2% strikeout rate over Julio, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Garver, Donovan Solano, and Ben Williamson. And then JP Crawford's actually pretty decent so far this year at limiting strikeouts. But Springs' one successful start this year really came against this team. 9 strikeouts in his first game, shut them out over 6 innings, 3-hitter. Not that we target things like that, but if we're looking for one positive thing to say about Springs, that would be it. He had an okay start in his last one against Texas, went 6, no earned runs, just 2 hits allowed, but only struck out 1. Only got walked 1. Came away with the win. Came away with the quality start bonus, but you're just getting the credit for the outs as far as the points go. You don't get the strikeout upside. It's been challenging. 18.3% strikeouts overall, 11.1% walks. You can see the ugly xFIP under the already ugly ERA. Fly ball pitcher, not really bad as far as the premium contact goes, but he's allowed a few home runs, way too many guys on base. And then again, the Mariners have been better than their reputation might be. The reputation spread partly by me. 492 implied total helps back that up. A 519 implied total for the Athletics, and all this home run upside that's showing for them tells us we are probably targeting Emerson Hancock with some A's bats. 6.62 ERA, but a 3.84 xFIP underneath it. Not bad in terms of the strikeout to walk, but also not particularly good. 7.9% swinging strike rate, just a 25.7% CSW. He's allowed some premium contact and power. In the samples we've seen him in the past, he's also been basically that guy. Last year, 12 starts, 60 2/3, allowed a 4.51% home run rate on plenty of premium contact, 4.75 ERA, a 5.24 xFIP, and struck out under 15%. Very targetable pitcher with these bats. Love the upside for the A's, like the upside for the Mariners. On the Mariners side, JP Crawford is still very cheap at $35.27. Especially considering that he's up to a 417 on base and looking a whole lot like the JP Crawford from 2 years ago who got on in a 380 clip all year. That's a good hitter. 294, 417, 404, 372 xwOBA, 3 home runs, showing a little bit of power. He's even stolen 2 bases. Julio at 48, 34, scuffling right now, but we know it'll come back. 355 xwOBA helps clarify that. 8.7% barrels, 45.6% hard hits. Even with the low end slash line, his creator runs 3% better than average. 5 homers, 5 steals. Cal Raleigh, 12 home runs. Does that lead the league? I think it does. 22.5% barrels, 48.3% hard hits. Cal Raleigh's a home run hitting machine. 9.71 in the home run model today. Love the upside for power. Mitch Garver from the right side, tons of power there as well. 6.55 in the home run model today. Second catcher, a little positional conflict there if you get them both in the lineup. You prefer Cal Raleigh, but Garver's not a bad alternative for a significant discount head-to-head. On FanDuel, you could go both in a lineup. You'd be skipping Donovan Solano if this is the version of the lineup we get, which isn't terrible. You could still put him in at third base, obviously, if you want to. Solano, more of a line drive hitter over time. He's solid. He's not a 137, 151, 157 hitter. Last year in 309 plate appearances, 286, 343, 417, 8 home runs. That's almost exactly what I would expect out of him. Over 450 the year before, 282, 369, 391. Again, good bat, good line drive bat. Not a big power bat, not a big home run hitter. But at these prices, doesn't really need to be. 21 on both sides. Very playable option. Williamson at 31.25. Respectable numbers over 70 plate appearances. 7.7% barrels gives you a little something to chase. Fairly low strikeout so far. Not a lot of walks in there, but he's a playable piece at third. Leo Rivas has given you a solid 51 plate appearances so far. We haven't done him last year. Yeah, pretty weak over 86 last year, but has come around somewhat. 334 xwOBA underneath all that says, in a small sample, been fairly real. No barrels, 15.2% hard hits. Not exactly encouraging for power upside, but putting a lot of balls in play, drawing some walks, getting on, making things happen. Miles Mastrobuoni, Samad Taylor down lineup, mix and match pieces at the absolute best. And now the A's. Nice way to round out the show with a spectacular looking option. Late night hammer. Playing in a minor league park. Pulling one of the highest run totals on the board against one of the lowest end pitchers on the board. 4 guys above the magic number for home run upside. Another one just short of it. Still hunting for his first major league home run down here. Still hunting for his first barrel at the major league level. Very, very cheap. Really like the upside for the A's. They've been a little bit hit and miss lately. Soderstrom is cool, as we've talked about. 9 home runs, but not one since April 17th. 279, 344, 515. Carrying a 12.39 in the model today. Love the upside for power from Soderstrom from the left side. I like it for Lawrence Butler. Even if Butler doesn't homer, we've got so much just individual upside as far as his correlated scoring ability, the stolen bases, the ability to get on base. Really like Butler for 49.33 as a starting point. Love the upside for Brent Rooker as the team leader at 14.5 in the home run model. You've also got from the right side a few spots later, Shea Langoliers at 11.14. He's hit 7. Rooker's hit 9. 384 xwOBA for Rooker supports the upside for the slash line, the on base to continue to come around. Was spectacular last year. Good start to this year. Not a great start in the front end, the 241, 308. But I expect that'll continue to climb. And honestly, even if it doesn't, as long as we're keeping strikeouts low, I think we're fine. Miguel Andujar, good hit tool. 315, 351, 427. Not a ton of power, but as a table setter for the rest of this lineup, a good line drive guy, kind of like Donovan Solano on the other side. Very playable in the middle of the lineup if this is where he's hitting. Less appealing in like the 6-7 range. Maybe if he gets into the 9 spot as a wraparound option, you would consider that. But this is in the cleanup role is actually not a bad spot for him. You could also reverse this and hit him 3 and Soderstrom in the cleanup role. Less so those two. But you can move Andujar to 3, Langoliers to 4, and Soderstrom to 5, but that would get very right-handed, so you probably wouldn't do it that way. Anyway, we're not playing lineup dynamics. Shea Langoliers, 45-28, monster power. Everything else comes and goes, but right now we're at 14.7% strikeouts, uncharacteristically low, carrying a 356 xwOBA, creating a run 6% better than average. We're really just homer hunting with Langoliers. 45, not a bad price to do it. 28 on FanDuel, not a bad price at all. And if you're not going to Kurtz for 22, That's perfectly playable as just pretend he's the first baseman. You get Soderstrom in the outfield and on you go. JJ Bleday, a reasonable enough bat, competent for line drives, competent for a little bit of power. 4 home runs on the season, gets on base at a respectable 331 clip so far. Just a 297 xWOB underneath that, probably cool off a little bit in the long term, but a playable piece in this lineup who should continue to produce as a correlated scoring option. Jacob Wilson with his excellent hit tool, another great correlated scoring piece, 341, 364, 452. Creating runs 36% better than average. He's hit 3 home runs. Nothing to dislike about Wilson for 4,000, 3,000 at shortstop. That's a very, very playable option. A's lineup just dropped. It is exactly what we're looking at. So Kurtz, again, looking for his first barrel, looking for his first home run, but respectable over 45 plate appearances at 275, 311, 325. He's been below average for run creation, very substandard xWOB underneath. Obviously, the ISO nowhere near what we expected and striking out 40% of the time. But when he has hit, he's hit. And we know there's power lurking there. Monster individual upside against a weak righty in a favorable hitter park, in favorable hitting conditions. 933 in the home run model. I'm going to go back to it. 2,200, very cheap. 2,900, very cheap. Luis Urias at 32.24. There's pop in that bat. 79 plate appearances. He's hit 5 home runs as if he needed to prove it. 231 ISO at 359 xWOBA underneath to tell you it's real. Last year, 4 home runs and 109 plate appearances was terrible. 3 home runs and 177 the year before that. It was terrible. 16 home runs back in 2022 and 472 plate appearances. Created runs 10% better than average. Very hit and miss. Very likely to put a 0 in your lineup. There's nothing real about that 11.4% strikeout rate. Usually it's around this kind of territory, or at least that. But a playable piece at second base for 32. 24 at second base on FanDuel. You don't really want him at third. But at second, I'll take that option a few times. A's bats, Mariners bats. Realistically, neither pitcher. If your roster either one, it's on DraftKings. And if your roster either one, it's probably Jeffrey Springs. With that, gang, that is basically your show. Jim, what are you calling out, Wilson? Not sure who you're calling out. I mean, I know you're talking. I assume you're talking about Jacob Wilson. Just don't know what you're calling out about him. Andujar batting cleanup. Yeah, this is the confirmed version of the lineup, even though I haven't dropped it in. So with that, you guys, that is your show. 555, 556 now. Let me get these lineups confirmed into the website so you guys can actually build lineups with them. Still got an hour, 7:05, usual start today. Yeah, Wilson for the A's. He's right here. I like him quite a bit. I just didn't know why you threw his name into the chat. But yeah, love the hit tool. Had a solid hit streak going early in the season. Has seen great results so far, and this should continue. That hit tool is real. I don't know that we see ongoing power out of him. You can see that kind of in the barrels, the hard hits already. But a 300 hitter, not that I really care about batting average, but solid hit tool, solid on-base skills, and correlated scoring at the absolute worst from him. And potentially a little bit more. So yeah, A's top to bottom, really interested. A's bats, Mariners bats, we did that already. Let's just get out of here. Got to get the website updated. Good luck out there tonight, gang. One last look at the pitching board as we usually do. I'll pull that up as we say goodnight. All right, here's the pitching board. We went through a lot of it. Those options are offset fairly dramatically from the rest of the board. There's a very healthy middle right through there on DraftKings. A lot of interchangeable parts within these guys. FanDuel too. But challenging matchups, pretty much all. The Cubs, maybe Liberatore against the Pirates is in the best spot out of that group. The Mets, the Brewers, the Phillies, the Astros, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Mariners. It's a bunch of good teams. Solid pitchers. Every one of those guys is solid. But that probably leads me to a lot of Liberatore, especially on DK at the 82. Called that out at the beginning and remains true at the end of the show, which is always nice. A little consistency, a little bit of an arc. All right, guys, let me punch out of here. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share the results when you do, either in Discord or on Twitter at the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. Check out rotoscouts.com, under $1 a day for access to all of it. Give our guys over at AceMind some love as well. AceMind.io. Promo code rotoscouts, still 20% off your first month. Sims, optimizers, the works. Great site to build with. A lot of tools there. So good luck out there. Go win something, and we will see you tomorrow for more of this. Later, gang.